Yo. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, once again to the Channel Awesome Retrospective Series. And in this entry, we're going to be covering all the lads and lasses who made up Team That Guy with the Glasses. We already covered Brad Jones in his Cinema Snob show since he had enough original stuff to kind of make for his own video. So if you haven't seen that, or the other entries in the series yet, then be sure to go check them out. Playlist link down below. But with that being said, grab yourself a snack and get comfy, as we briefly look at all the various creators of Team That Guy with the Glasses. Thalos. So I'm gonna be real with you guys. I came really close to making a dedicated video on Thalos. He's one of the other big creators from that time frame, and honestly was one of the ones I do remember watching a fair bit back then. But I also sort of remembered the least about him too, if I'm being honest. I remember that he reviewed several slasher and horror films, which was of course right up my alley, and then he also reviewed other strange knockoff type films, which again was quite interesting. But beyond that, I also mostly remembered him for his interesting accent.
Roles in this movie. 2, this movie is not a continuation of the story from Troll. So why is this movie called Troll 2? Well, the movie certainly doesn't give an explanation for this. So let's start it anyway.
But if you were to ask me like a month ago, what's your opinion on Thalos' content? I really wouldn't have been able to tell you. It had just simply been that long since I had ever seen one of his videos. But now, after having watched quite a lot of his content recently, both his oldest stuff all the way to some of his newest stuff, I can safely say that Thalos is really fucking good.
Lion and the King took me quite a while to recover from, but because I hate myself, let's go back into the Dingo Pictures world with Dinosaur Adventure. When vacuums suck you up. And so realistically...
Thalos, or real name Phelan Portis, born September 4th of 1983, and hailing from Halifax, Nova Scotia, as far as I could tell, was rather difficult to find anything he was doing before he joined Channel Awesome. I tried looking around for any potential old YouTube channels of his, but came up short. But from what I understand, he did have a YouTube channel before, where he started reviewing movies, much like others were doing at the time, in addition to doing some homemade parody type videos, and even some flash animation apparently. All of which caught the attention of Mike Machad, who wanted to have him join the site. Thalos was picked up on the site around December 2008, with his video Mac and Me serving as his intro, as well as a kind of test for the general thatguywiththeglasses.com community, as Mike asked users to post their opinions on him. It seemed to be divided right down the middle, with some really enjoying his sense of humor and editing style, which we'll talk about more in detail in a second, while others found his humor confusing, and they also didn't like his voice or his inflections at times. So Mike decided to post a few more of Phaelus' videos, such as Phaelus Knows What You Shouldn't Have Watched Last Summer, and Funny Games, before Phaelus officially became a member of the site, with I suppose enough people warming up to him. Since then though, I've noticed that not many people talk about Phaelus, or when they do, they sort of talk about him as if he's not quite on the same grade of content creator as the rest. But personally, I really do enjoy Phaelus' videos, be they on slasher or horror movies, strange direct-to-DVD cartoon movies, or really anything else. Phaelus has a unique sense of humor that I suppose you either get or you don't. Let me explain. While others on the site were often very explosive, over the top, or theatrical to some degree, Phaelus has an extremely deadpan delivery to his jokes, often mixed with very dry sarcasm. And in one of the most unique traits of the time, he has many jokes and humor that is made up entirely through his awkward and at times almost YouTube poop-esque editing.
Oops! Looks like his mom bought him a bad wheelchair. Either that or Map sabotaged it.
Fatality.
Let's take a look at that again. Put a nut in a tire iron.
They're not dangerous.
Oh, just go fall off the cliff again, you dumbass. Is that a Coke product?
Don't do that! It's okay, they won't hurt you, they won't hurt you!
Only because that's a Sprite. If that had been a 7-Up, they'd blown you to Kingdom Come. Arrive at the party location to a common sight. People dancing in the parking lot of McDonald's. Oh, there's Ronald in his big movie debut!
Hiya, Coach. How's it going?
It's going.
Nice teddy bear.
They're going to have a dance contest in McDonald's.
I don't believe this!
The staff, football players, and kids just start busting a move. Boy, don't you hate that? When you go into Mickey D's and you want to place an order but you can't get through the damn dancers?
Phaelus' comedic timing is probably his defining quality from my observation, and it's one that you either get and jive with, or you don't. And, well, yeah. Phaelus was also kind of self-aware and often made meta-humor around the concept of review shows having lore, which at the time was actually pretty funny and observant. But I guess when that stuff was at its peak, these jokes maybe didn't land with the viewer base of said content quite as hard as they maybe would now. Most people go back and sort of mock the fact that so many of these review shows had these alter egos and villains and all this over-the-top sketches and stuff. But Phaelus was one of the first ones to kind of make that part of his identity on there. He was aware that it was kind of ridiculous. And thus, when he collaborated with other people on the website, that meta-humor attitude came with him. Also, his deep dives into weird direct-to-DVD animated films was not only pretty ahead of its time as well as far as covering that type of content goes, but I also genuinely feel like they pair excellently with his sense of humor. They often feel like a guided tour through some truly obscure shit, while taking time to really embrace it in a strange kind of way as well.
Theo!
Why are you shouting at me like that? I haven't done anything wrong today.
You guys sure you didn't have a girl? Nah, it's the same female voice they use for Robin in Lion and the King, so of course it's a boy. And I'm really loving how different this is so far. Angry father constantly yelling for their stupid child who has an idiot sidekick friend.
He has a bad influence on you. You see, you're getting rebellious already.
I thought this was hilarious for a second before I suddenly realized that I was sad. Now try to figure this one out. Tio is bipedal while his parents are both quadrupeds. Also, they are apatosauruses. Maybe, while Tio seems to be a green ripoff of Chomper, a T-Rex. Maybe we missed the scene where Tio's mother admitted to his father that Tio wasn't really his, and that's why he's so cranky. Oh, everyone already knows that, Michael. Or should I say William? Or Captain Kirk? We did that before, Michael. No!
Yes?
No! It was Bravo Team's helicopter, not just a flashlight. Nobody was in it, but strangely, most of the equipment was still there. However, we soon discovered why.
Bravo team, you're pitiful.
What? What is this?
Hey, over here! Come here! Look at this! You're not listening to me! I'm Joseph Frost! Over here! Quiet, Jill. We've lost Barry.
What?
Oh no!
Yep. We have no idea where Barry is.
Michael, you sick Uncle Fuck!
Despite the absurd humor, there's usually real media knowledge underneath the jokes. Phyllis clearly has affection for horror movies, B-movies, old VHS culture, and occult cinema in general. That really helps the reviews feel informed rather than just random mockery. Kind of like the Cinema Snob, but less, porn and exploitation films, and more weird cartoons and general horror and slasher films, which, truth be told, I do connect with a bit more as well. He's also just much more chill. Even when reviewing terrible movies, the atmosphere is more relaxed and conversational than aggressive. The videos can feel like listening to a sarcastic friend ramble about bizarre media they found at a thrift store or some shit. And I guess I just kind of dig that. Oh, and also he was one of, if not the very first movie reviewer, to review the Troll franchise. And yes, that includes the infamous So Bad It's Good classic, Troll 2.
Apparently ate the turn you into a plant food, so then the goblins show up. I love that one with the eyes. He gives them a scolding, naturally, but they don't take to it. They go into what looks like a church, but apparently isn't.
What kind of place is this?
This is my house.
The house of overacting! Just a tad.
One with the vegetable world.
Oh yeah, looks like a great world to be a part of. And now, here it comes, the line you've all been waiting for!
They're eating her. And then they're going to eat me. Oh my god!
Which is pretty damn cool. He also usually worked pretty well with the likes of Doug Walker and the several collabs that he did with them, with the highlights probably being his Child's Play videos.
Oh, I'm the nostalgia critic. I remember not being a pencil sharpener.
Yeah, but I remembered continuity, so you had to be in the pencil sharpener.
You were the one in this pencil sharpener!
Really? Damn it. Alright, you want to move over and I'll get in the pencil sharpener?
No, stay away from my pencil sharpener. Both of us had done reviews since then. We don't need the pencil sharpener.
Hey, well, excuse me, Miss Criticky Pants. I was just trying to add a bit of continuity from the last crossover.
Well, wait to fail us again, fail us. I remember continuity, so you don't have to.
Oh, zing. Anyway, Child's Play 2 time!
Ah, yes, Child's Play 2. I remember it well. Chucky's in this one too, right?
Yes. Wow, those are the worst lightning effects I've seen since Kick-Assia.
Oh, I don't know. I thought the ones in Suburban Nights were even worse. Because you did them.
I got it!
Stick it up your ass.
So, Critic, what do you want me to do with this movie?
Stick it up your ass.
Alright.
And for everyone else watching, be sure to visit theawesomestore.com so you can not only get that DVD, but other DVDs to stick up your ass.
Really? You're just gonna start doing commercials in the middle of reviews now?
Well, it was either that or another mid-roll.
Hi guys, I'm Phalus, and today we're gonna do another Child's Play movie. And you see, the thing with that is it has to be a crossover with me, the Nostalgia Critic. See, I'm so meta, I have to point out that I'm me!
What are you doing?
I'm being you. You know, like at the end of the Child's Play 2 review, I thought I was you the whole time!
No, you haven't. That didn't carry over to any of your videos.
Oh, plot hole!
Not really. That's more of a continuity error.
Plot hole!
Okay, so, Child's Play time again? That's why you have your direct video feed open to me?
My what?
You know, the video we see of each other when we do cameos or crossovers like this.
What the hell? No, I don't think I like this. Let's go back to the normal shot!
Oh, fine.
You know, that's really something we could have gone without seeing. Ever!
You're welcome!
And hey, Mr. Smarty Pants, where did the cameras go during those shots?
Well, obviously, we had to pick the cameras up and move them over to get a different shot.
It was already too meta! Stop over-meta-ing it! I've never done anything meta!
What's meta?
I hate you.
Beyond his movie reviews, he's also done other shows like Bootleg Zone, which is a series where he showcases different bootleg/knockoffs of popular brands from overseas.
Those silly bootleggers, only they would be so Pikachu obsessed. Well, Pikachuer! Well, I actually have the exact thing these are bootlegging. Well, you'll notice a difference here with the official product versus the bootleg, and that's that it's called Pokemon, apparently. Not Prodigy Pet. There you go. Stupid Pokemon, they're the failure pets. They aren't the Prodigy. Look out, everyone! It's a hyper-realistic of Sonic! This is so hyper-realistic! It's almost like it's really here! This is scary stuff!
Another one which I strangely found quite entertaining were his videos where he showcases obscure film formats that only came out for a short time back in the day, before pretty quickly being discontinued, such as those videos that you could watch on your Game Boy Advance, or some of the strange mini or medium-sized DVD type discs. I adore this type of content anyway, but again, I appreciate Phalus' sense of humor and overall presentation here as well. Oh, and did I mention he has a sick-ass intro song?
I don't like this movie, doesn't look too friendly. This monster seems so fake, my nerves are gonna break. Phalus, don't let me down, you need to be around. Grab that running one up and blast that sing a new one. This movie looks shitty. Phalus, so Phalus, bring a multi-comedy of Phalus, so Phalus, and some horror movies, so Phalus, so Phalus. I don't care about how you sound, but Phalus, so Phalus. What's your opinion about
Besides all that though, all I can really say is that Phaelus is what I would consider a bit of an underrated creator from Channel Awesome. Not that he doesn't have his fans of course, but when I hear discussions of Channel Awesome, I definitely do not hear as many people talk about Phaelus, and when I do, it's usually rather negative, but never with any actual specifics on why they don't seem to like him, leaving me to believe that there must have been many who simply watched a couple of his videos and just didn't jive with his sense of humor back in the day. Or this is honestly, probably more likely, they only really knew him from the Channel Awesome films and never bothered to go and look at his stuff by itself, since he wasn't like one of the big headliners of the site nearly as often. Which is also part of why we're taking the time to look at many of these creators as we can before we finally start talking about those films, because I want you to really see and understand who each of these creators are, even if it's simply just being a bit more familiar with their work or style. But to also take a look at some of those who weren't even in those movies and were simply smaller, much more niche content creators that have kind of been forgotten to the sands of time. But on that note, I suppose I don't really have much else to say with Phaelus. I like his stuff. He's got a unique sense of humor and pacing for his jokes, and I overall enjoyed my quick dive through his work. Sadly, due to the overwhelming amount of videos so many of these creators have, I can't really see all of their stuff for obvious reasons. It would just take way too long and would get redundant rather quickly. But for each of these lightning round creators, I tried to watch their oldest stuff, their newest stuff, their most popular stuff, and a few other series or things that caught my eye, if there are any. But with that in mind, I think it's time we jump to our next creator. Filmbrain. As per quoted from the That Guy with the Glasses .fandom wiki, quote, Filmbrain created his first 5-second movie whilst he was still on YouTube, a parodied version of That Guy with the Glasses video, The Best Way to Quit Your Job Ever, where a clip from Old School where Will Ferrell streaks is used to make it appear that that guy quit his job by streaking. The idea for the video came to Filmbrain when he watched the video and originally thought that that was what Doug was going to do.
We're streaking! We're streaking! Woo! Woo!
That bridge has officially been burned.
The video was created in one night and was devised as a way of experimenting with how to use Windows Movie Maker on Filmbrain's then new laptop. The video even managed to receive a comic comment from Doug himself, saying, quote, "How did you find that footage of me streaking? That's private," unquote. When Filmbrain was hired onto the site and heard that Doug was ending his run of 5-second movies, he decided to create some new ones by himself for the fans. The first 5-second movie by Filmbrain, after being hired by the site, was one for Dumb and Dumber, which was well received. Since then, he continued to create 5-second movies with mixed comments, sometimes using more obscure films, unquote. Meaning he sort of got recognized for his 5-second film edits first, and for sort of carrying the mantle of that series, I suppose, for some time. He also wrote several reviews in the blog section of the site, a section that not nearly as many people talk about, or even know existed very often, but that we will be going into much more detail with shortly. Anywho, Filmbrain's reviews were known for being around 1,000 words long, and were thought to be quite comprehensive, and were well done enough that they attracted the attention of the ThatGuyWithTheGlasses.com site creators, such as Mike Michaud and Robert Walker. And in July of 2008, Filmbrain became a featured contributor on the site, being among the first of the new contributors, and by April of 2009, Filmbrain started a series with a few friends called Bad Movie Beatdown. In the series, he reviewed bad movies like The Nostalgia Critic, with the distinction being that that no one in their right mind would call these films nostalgic. And he has thusly been doing those reviews ever since. And I don't like him. Now listen, Film Brain, real name Matthew Buck, seems like a chill enough guy. But to be honest, looking over his reviews, both his old stuff and his new stuff, the best compliment I can give Film Brain is that his reviews are quite consistent. They aren't bad reviews or anything, I suppose, but they are also, how do I put it? Really fucking boring. Now, I am willing to say that this is subjective. Like, Film Brain has a similar style to others we've reviewed, where we sort of see him break down the film in chronological order and make commentary and jokes all throughout. But I just don't find them funny, like at all. I get comedy is subjective, but there's something about his whisper yelling, like he's trying not to disturb others in his house, in his kind of extra posh and proper attitude, like, ugh, how positively dreadful type of personality that I just fucking don't jive with.
Bravo! You've made a show entirely out of the hilarity of bonus! You might even given me a chubby. Yes, that's a joke. Suddenly, stop-motion creatures start popping out everywhere. Well, some of them are stop-motion, some of them are obvious costumes that look like an episode of Barney on a bad LSD trip. Stu goes into the bar. Apparently Stu is a big celebrity here because it is the land of nightmares, and Stu has provided plenty of fodder in the past. And what's more, Monkey Bone is alive in this world, and voiced by John Turturro. Time out, time out! Okay, what the hell is this place? Is it real? Is it a dream? Is it imaginary? I don't know. I don't even think the movie knows. Is it supposed to be real? I think it's supposed to be real. There are humans in there. If so, why is Monkey Bone there? Trust me, if you think about it too long, your head will explode, so just deal with it. Wait a second. Confusing cartoon world with no clear rules? They've only just gone and remade Cool World. No! Ugh. Ow.
It could be funny, maybe with better delivery, or if he was somehow leaning into it as a character trait more or something, but I don't know, it just consistently never lands for me.
So they agreed to buy the Willy Wonka lookalike Willy, played by what the f***, Crispin Glover, from George McFly to this? And this was the guy that accused Spielberg of being money grubbing. Talk about a hypocrite. It's a bad movie beatdown. Now, with the fourth movie coming in a few days, I think it's only fair to pay a glance over Final Destination 3, or as I like to call it, how to run your original concept into the ground. The inherent problem with the Final Destination franchise is this: it shouldn't be a franchise at all. It's a good idea for one movie, maybe two, but the problem is that each of these sequels have the same plot, just changing the details slightly, and in an attempt to top themselves, the deaths have become progressively more ludicrous as the series goes on. The fourth movie is in 3D, which means the deaths involve things flying at the screen. Poke, poke, poke. She notices the letter V in dive is missing. Subtle. Her friends really want her to go onto the roller coaster.
We missed that and stand in line for like a day and a half and that's gonna kill me.
Ooh, foreshadowing.
No, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, man.
Alright, stop the foreshadowing and dramatic irony. We're 3 minutes in. Hold on.
This is the beginning of the end.
James, most people aren't retarded. Stop abusing foreshadowing and dramatic irony. We're only 7 minutes in.
They say the real fear with these rides comes from the feeling of having no control.
You're gonna wear out the battery at this rate! And they're not Duracell.
His newer reviews don't really work for me either, with his reviews of newer films having the new title of Projector, where he kind of reviews the film in a similar fashion to someone like Chris Stuckman, where, you know, he just kind of reviews the movie on camera with just his face showing, with minimal editing. And while there's nothing wrong with this style of review for like a new movie that's still out in theaters and what have you, this kind of Chris Stuckman type review style has just never been my thing. unless the person just has a very strong personality and I just genuinely care about what they have to say, it's just not for me. But especially not when I feel like so much of Film Brain's reviews in recent times are just kind of him listing off random information about the film that he's discussing and kind of just talking at me like he doesn't feel like he's going into an in-depth breakdown, nor does it feel like a casual conversation or a dude telling you what they think. It feels almost robotic somehow. Like so much was said and yet nothing was said at all.
Hello and welcome to Projector, and on this episode, the Queen's Corgi finds himself in the doghouse in this animated adventure. Pampered Corgi Rex, voiced by Jack Whitehall in the UK dub and Leo Barakat in the US dub, has the coveted position of top dog of Queen Elizabeth, voiced by Julie Walters in the UK, Mary Devon in the US. When Rex disgraces himself during a state visit by President Donald Trump, voiced by John Culshaw in the UK, Kirk Thornton in the US, rival Corgi Charlie, voiced by Matt Lucas in the UK, Dino Andrade in the US, uses the opportunity to lure Rex outside Buckingham Palace and tries to kill him. Rex survives and is taken to an animal shelter where he falls. The film has actually been quite successful for the studio. It's already been released around various parts of Europe and has been a hit in many of them. I hear it went down particularly well in France. For its UK release, the film has been totally redubbed with name voice talent. There is an English dub with mostly voice actors, but they didn't use that for the UK theatrical release because obviously we're putting it in cinemas, we need people to bring in audiences. And I'll talk a little bit more about that when I get into reviewing the film itself. The Queen's Corgi had one job, just one thing it had to do. It just had to be cute for 90 minutes. That's all anybody asked of it. And ever so briefly, you think that's what you're going to get. The very first few minutes of this film are a montage of Queen Elizabeth receiving Rex as a puppy, and he learns to acclimatise himself to life in Buckingham Palace. And you know right from the outset that it's not exactly going to be a great animated film because first of all, you have eyes, but also there are pee and poo jokes in the first 2 minutes, which is always the surefire sign of a lesser children's movie, let's be honest. But even so, this opening stretch at least has a certain amount of charm, nay adorability to it, in large part because there is no dialogue here. It's all visual, and it shows how strong animation can be as a storytelling medium in that regard. If the movie wrapped up in the first 5 minutes, I'd probably be giving it a rave review.
Also, bro needs to learn when to take a fucking breath, like holy shit. Again, I don't want to throw hate this dude's way or whatever, especially because he is a smaller creator and he is one of the ones that not as many people know about. And I've also been generally kinda positive with these videos to some degree. And if you do happen to enjoy his stuff, then again, no hate. You could maybe even tell me why you like his stuff in the comments down below, if you so wish. But I really try watching several of his videos and series, and just either found them a slog to get through, or just strangely devoid of that sauce that I was able to find in most of these other people that we've covered thus far. Not to mention again, the personality he exudes in many of these videos I frankly just kind of find a bit annoying. Like he's trying too hard to imitate other reviewers of the time, but could never quite get there, you know? But when he does kind of get there and has a strong personality or creative voice, it kind of comes off as a buzzkill. I guess what I'm saying is, if I'm gonna see a video of someone reviewing Final Destination 3, I'd rather watch someone with either a sleazy, sarcastic personality, or a deadpan, weird delivery, or even loud and obnoxious one, or possibly even deep and analytical if they so wish. All of that would be kind of fun in their own context. But what's not fun is a guy talking as though the movie is beneath him. Like, not in a funny way, or an over-the-top way, just kind of in a general buzzkill kind of way.
Shelf, which sandwiches between the two beds, trapping them inside. Trapped, they burn in flames. Okay, this isn't scary at all. Why? Because the best Final Destination deaths are simple, like someone getting hit by a bus. Not this, which is so implausible and so far-fetched that it's not scary at all. If you were trying to be scary, you just failed.
I feel like this is extra highlighted in the videos like Lockjaw, where he collabs with Phaelus as well.
Hotel doors don't work that way.
I don't know. Hey, do you want to do a review of Lockjaw?
But I've never seen Lockjaw before.
I know, that's the best way to do a review, because I've not seen it, and you haven't seen it, and it's not like we haven't planned this before we were here.
But where are we gonna review it at?
I was thinking...
no! This spot with the camera already set up at it.
Oh, right. See, this movie looks like it's gonna be great, you know, because it's got DMX and a giant snake. How could that possibly go wrong? I mean, the box even says that it outdoes the Anaconda series. And you love the Anaconda movies.
Does it have John Voight crushing anyone with his legs of steel?
It's got DMX with a rocket launcher, motherfucker. Ah yes, Most Wanted films, no doubt inspired by DMX's rap sheet. You know what's the really funny thing, Phaelus?
What?
DMX isn't even in it that much, even though he's top billed.
You can't bring that up yet, Film Brain. We have to be surprised at the end that he wasn't in it that much. Man, these child actors suck. Oh, I'm so scared for you, but I really want to come.
I mean, that kid really looks like he escaped from his abusive father, didn't he?
Symbolism! Way to go! You used your overused catchphrase! What's next? Foreshadowing?
I'll get it.
Yeah, you will.
What a great and likable bunch of characters! I can't wait for them to die, I mean survive!
And they're going out to a cabin in the woods. What an original concept! I hope they party while they're there.
I wonder if they're at Camp Crystal Lake.
Like, maybe I'm just being a hater, but I swear every time Film Brain talks and interrupts the commentary or makes a joke, I find myself getting more and more out of it. Like, half the jokes feel so forced or just kind of a non-addition to the review or commentary. Like, I know many people don't even like collaboration reviews anyway, but honestly, they have been some of the best stuff from the site in my opinion. These different personalities bouncing off of each other can genuinely be super fun, but here again, Film Brain just doesn't feel right here. In fact, I notice in all his collabs, he's always smiling and kind of exudes this high energy, almost manic crazy type of personality, which is a little bit more interesting to be fair, but it's not what he normally does in his reviews, like at all, which makes it feel all the more strange and out of place here.
Fucking waggle, why won't it open?
It's no use, Linkar. You won't be free until you've watched the entire movie, thanks to my sonic screwdriver.
You tricked me!
I told you it was a Samuel L. Jackson Scarlett Johansson movie. You just believed whatever you wanted to believe.
Admit it, you're not clever enough to come up with a ruse this diabolical.
Hello? Film Brain, I think that denotes intelligence, thank you.
I know you're working for someone. I will get to the bottom of this.
If you want to get out here quickly, I suggest you stop asking questions.
You are absolutely right.
Have a seat. Get comfortable, because it's going to hurt.
It's Frank Miller. When does it not?
Beyond all this though, Film Brain continues making videos to this day, though I think he mostly does the projector videos where he reviews new movies that just came out in theaters rather than the bad movie beatdowns anymore. So, good on him I suppose for continuing to do what he enjoys. My own opinions aside, you do gotta respect the grind that he's been on for like how many years since then. And he is also gonna be one of those creators who plays significant roles in the Channel Awesome films as well. So enjoy him or not, he is still very important to the history of ThatGuyWithTheGlasses.com. CR. Now, this one is going to be a much more obscure pick, but with some pretty legendary ties. CR, aka Chad Rocco, is a graphic artist who had been involved with ThatGuyWithTheGlasses.com for some time, earning several Best of Blogs and Awesome Blogs of the Week on Transmission Awesome, the official podcast of Channel Awesome, which discussed the goings-on of the website, from the best blog of the week to videos and what have you. The show also has a series of interviews where they talk to other contributors and the like. Anywho, at some point Chad took part in a t-shirt contest on the site, and that caught the attention of none other than Linkara, who ended up liking Chad's art style so much that he would go on to ask him if he could draw for his webcomic Lightbringer, something we covered in the dedicated Lightbringer episode. But nonetheless, Chad also did have a series on the site called Familiar Faces, a show where Chad takes a look at characters from cartoons, video games, and other media that maybe less people were likely to think about, like background or minor characters, and basically gives them a spotlight and lets people know why he thinks they're so cool or whatever, which is a pretty fun concept for a show. However, how the show usually plays out is we get to hear Chad talk about which female character from what show he wants to bone, with some respect to their character, I guess.
Miss Cerebellum. She was named after the cerebellum, the massive tissue towards the back bottom of the brain near the stem. It controls motor skills, language, attention, and regulates emotions. A perfect metaphor for the level-headed, articulate, and ever-vigilant assistant to the scattered, emotional, eccentric, but ultimately well-meaning mayor of Townsville. No reason to mix words. Miss Bellum was sexy by design.
Listen, I didn't come up with the hot mom. I didn't come up with the cougar. I didn't coin the phrase MILF. All of those things have been around since forever. Why is that? Very simple. Rule of thumb dictates that you usually become a mother because at least one person finds you sexy. Number 10. Mom. Just mom. Dexter's Lab was the first of a new generation of cartoons, and thus Mom was the first in a new generation of moms. And at first she seems like an archetype housewife and mother, caring, nurturing, cheerful yet stern. Although there were times when they delved into her psychological obsession with cleaning. Then there were times when she just let loose and kicked ass. Speaking of which, being the first mom of the cartoon age, her design was instrumental in the development of this age. You see, sometimes standards and practices will say that the only huge boobs you're allowed to have on the show are upstairs. But you still want to make your older female characters inherently attractive. The solution? Create an exaggerated hourglass figure with a narrowed middle and wider hips, thighs, and buttocks, resulting in what many experts classify as a badunkadunk. 5. Lydia Pearson. This might be considered a weird choice, but then again, I'm a weird guy with weird tastes and a weird job. But it comes down to the more I thought about it, the more I had to put her on this list. I mean, she's not ugly, but you would never look at her for the first time and say she's a knockout. But kind of like in a real-life situation, the more you hang out with her kid, you realize she's more than just a nurturing single parent trying to raise a family. She's fearless, she's creative, fun-loving, passionate, and savvy. She encourages others and herself to try new things. She's always outspoken and stands up for what she believes in. She's kind of cute with the little glasses and the bob cut, the neckerchief, the stretch pants over her Traxaland. Then one day out of nowhere, your friend nudges you and says, "Hey, is it just me, or is Pepper Ann's mom kind of hot? Like, really kind of hot?" Then you're like, "She is so effing hot," because you're in middle school and you're not quite comfortable with saying the actual word yet.
It's sort of funny in that classic top 11 hottest insert characters type of way. It's a form of content that it seems so many were so ready and eager to make back then. But you really wouldn't catch most people dead trying to make that type of video these days, since it's well, it's kind of cringe, and even rather weird depending on what the series and characters are. Like, even if there is a bit of character analysis in there, so much of the show is dedicated to cartoon women that Chad finds hot, that it ultimately kind of feels like it's a culmination of all those usually one-off type of videos by other creators on the site, but like as a whole series.
Peg Pete. Peg was a truly fascinating creature. Shapely hourglass figure, pink sweater, white stretch pants, bizarre haircut that looks like it's a generation behind but somehow suits her.
Look, and what she picked up was a short skirt, fitting top, and high heels, taking corporate casual to the ultimate level. Aside from the oddly pointed glasses and a hair flipper that would make the dude in suede look twice, she was pretty damn hot. Or maybe that was just because she was the only regular female on the show, since Dana Barrett never appeared in the cartoon series. Sorry, Peter.
Hey, what did I do? Wait!
In the cartoon, Janine was depicted as less of an apathetic outsider and more of an enthusiastic member of the team, going so far as to give her the occasional desire to be a Ghostbuster herself. She was feisty, she was flirty, and at times she was very sweet, but I think it was her voice that really turned people off. So come season 3, they decided to give Janine a whole new look.
I'll show you where they figure out new ways to do stupid things.
So long, Laura Summer, and hello, Kath Sose. And why not? After all, she's been the voice of some of the most opinionated, cynical, irritating, distinctive, and sexy characters in animation. Plus, she's fantastic at accents. So, how bad can she be?
Try to imagine all life as you know it stopping instantaneously and every molecule in your body exploding at the speed of light.
Don't believe Egon? Well, just take a listen.
It flew in through the front door. Weirdest thing I ever saw. Thanks for the use of your wagon, Ray. Heads up, guys.
Now, to be fair, not all the episodes are like this, with some of them being about his favorite comic strips or obscure cartoons and what have you, which were alright. I don't really have much to say about them one way or the other, but when the show is fulfilling that core premise of analyzing background characters or more obscure characters, it can be kind of interesting. He also did a lot of these Christmas and Halloween special videos, which were interesting enough, and definitely were heavily inspired and kind of in line with the sort of stuff Doug might have done at the time with his own Christmas and Halloween related top 11 lists. Oh, and did I mention he made a video where he talks about how much he wants to fuck the green M&M?
That's right, it's the sweet little piece of eye candy we all know as the green M&M. Oh, what level of depravity have I slipped to? But maybe you'll all understand if I start at the beginning. So, what is it exactly about the green ones? What makes green, well, for lack of a better word, sexy? I mean, she's a candy dot. Well, I guess we'll just have to take a look at her personality and attitude. Hell, P. Diddy even threw a party in Green's honor to celebrate the election. And it was a win based on the issues and integrity. Oh, come on now. That's not even... But once again, I have to remind myself that we haven't even cracked the shell of this mystery. Maybe it's because Green is so mysterious herself. Think about it. We all know red is plain chocolate, the yellow is peanut, the orange used to be crispy, but now it's pretzel. But so far Green has been mint, coconut, dark chocolate, even peanut butter. Peanut butter! That used to be Yellow's bag. Explain yourself! What are you emerald temptress? You've paired this amazing voice actress that can produce one hell of a sexy voice and married it with a top-notch production team that can convey the idea of sensuality through the most basic but at the same time most expressive anatomy, i.e. the face followed by the hands and legs. So if something sounds sexy and looks sexy, well then who's to say it's not sexy?
Yeah, I guess him and old Linky had that one in common. Man, what the fuck was in the water back then and people obsessing over a fucking green circle? Y'all are fucking nuts. Well anyway, Chad's still making videos on occasion, more live streams than anything else, usually drawings, which is cool enough. He's a pretty good artist overall, though some of his works are, well, they're about what I would expect from a typical DeviantArt page. But hey, he seems to be having fun and enjoying what he's doing these days. So, fair enough. That Sci-Fi Guy. Real name, Leo Thompson. That Sci-Fi Guy, as his name suggests, reviewed primarily science fiction themed movies and shows. He also was one of the hosts of the League of Inebriated Gentlemen, a show where him and his friends Nick and Alan review beer. However, as far as I could tell, there doesn't seem to be any trace of most of the videos from that series, like anywhere, or most of that Sci-Fi Guy's stuff for that matter. I'm not exactly sure why that is either, but it seems like a ton of his work is gone to the sands of time. It has never been re-uploaded anywhere that I could find at the very least, making reviewing his history kind of difficult. I'm not even sure how much is lost or not, but there is at least some stuff on his YouTube channel to get a general taste of his stuff at least. So I suppose we'll just have to work off with that. He has re-uploaded his very first review on the channel, that being the Star Wars Holiday Special, and in it we can get an idea for how his oldest content was like.
Welcome, science fiction fans, to the first episode of That Sci-Fi Guy. Being that this is the first episode, I thought an introduction was in order. Don't worry, I'll try to keep it brief. I am a science fiction fan. Always have been. Guess I never really grew out of that whole outer space is cool thing you go through as a kid. It probably also helps that these are my parents. Star Trek was always around my house when I was growing up, although I was more of a Star Wars kid. Oh god, not that Star Wars kid. But that does bring me on topic. For my first episode, I thought I'd start off with a bang and review something really ambitious. The Star Wars Holiday Special. What's the Star Wars Holiday Special? I'd like to hand that one off to my good friend Dr. Wiki. Dr. Wiki?
The Star Wars Holiday Special was a 2-hour television special, commercials included, set in the Star Wars galaxy. It was the first official Star Wars spin-off produced and was directed by Steve Binder.
He reviewed films again in a similar fashion to Doug and the like, which I suppose that almost goes without saying by now, but he did have a few quirks. Namely, that he had a sidekick type character named Dr. Wiki, this anthropomorphized version of Wikipedia, which quickly would name off facts about the film that was being reviewed to get them out of the way, I suppose, but also have something for him to kind of bounce off of when discussing strange trivia or facts about the thing that he was reviewing. Beyond that, having quickly watched through all of his videos, since there's only like 11 of his main reviews online, I can say his reviews are actually pretty decent. He definitely is much more chill in vibes and kind of feels like, well, like Doug Walker videos, if he had no character he was playing, no skits, no screaming, and specifically focused on sci-fi movies. They are pretty informative, and notably, I do appreciate that Sci-Fi Guy tends to not just shit all over the movies, but also looks at some of the more positive aspects of these films in an unironic fashion. Like with his Final Fantasy Spirits Within review, which is the last review he uploaded or re-uploaded to his channel to my knowledge, which was over 8 years ago, where he notes how the film's art direction was actually quite influential on other films and games that came out later on, even if the movie, plot-wise, is a pretty fucking whatever.
Okay, so this movie came out in 2001 and was marketed as having the most photorealistic, computer-generated effects ever. It didn't really live up to the hype, but it was very technically impressive for the time. The problem was that they hadn't really figured out how to render the texture of human skin yet. Instead of using multiple translucent layers like they did in the Ang Lee Hulk movie, they just opted to cover up any free patch of skin with as many freckles, moles, and pockmarks as they could. I think it still holds up pretty well, but it just didn't deliver on what it promised. I mean, it's no Benjamin Button, but these characters do look at least as good as the younger Jeff Bridges and Tron.
We're always on the same team.
Aside from the matte painted skins, the movie is pretty cool looking, and you can tell it had a huge impact on sci-fi projects that followed, especially in gaming. These Gears of War suits are a lot like the armor seen in this movie, and it's clearly where the Omni tool came from. Mass Effect's art director Derek Watts was even quoted as saying, "We actually reference a lot from Final Fantasy The Spirits Within. I keep a folder of that stuff, and I still actually tell the guys, just go back and look at that. Change it like that. If nothing else, these glowing user interfaces and hologram projections definitely make this movie memorable." Eye candy aside, this just wasn't that great of a movie. It suffered from seriously lazy storytelling and piss-poor characterization, making a lot of it confusing and pointless. You spend most of it just trying to figure out what the hell is going on.
The only video I could find that had the whole League of Inebriated Gentlemen or whatever is one where they are at a con drinking Shinerbach beer.
Welcome, beer fans. We are actually live here at Chattacon, one of the first on-location episodes of the League of Inebriated Gentlemen.
Hence the noise.
Yes, apologize for the noise, but we are actually in the con suite of Chattacon, which is the main reason to come to this convention. It technically is a science fiction fantasy book novel convention, I believe, correct?
It's not a beer convention?
Yeah, they serve free beer all weekend.
We can barely read, so, I mean...
So, the thing about Chattacon, apparently this year, which is a new rule, is they no longer allow glass in the con suite, which I understand. People get drunk and irresponsible, and they drop and they break things, so instead of our normal pint glasses, we get these wonderful Miller Lite plastic vessels to Chattacon.
To Chattacon.
That brings us all together.
Chattacon!
Chattacon!
Woohoo! Oh, we got somebody watching drinking it too. Awesome.
I like the flavor of Shinerbach.
Nice.
You're going to be hard-pressed to find a finer session beer than this.
Yeah.
Basically, a session beer is what beer aficionados say that is very drinkable, meaning that they can just sit there and drink and drink and drink until they're stone-faced drunk, but still look all nice and pretentious. Well, it's a session beer.
Yeah.
But it really is. It's a very good. It's a very good drinkable beer.
And they seem to have pretty good chemistry with each other. Though again, I'm not sure why this is the only video from the series that exists outside of an Ice Bucket Challenge video. One has to assume that most of them were lost in the great Blip TV downfall, but who knows. That Sci-Fi Guy also did quite a few collaborations with Doug back in the day, including several times during Star Trek month, which is a thing I kinda forgot Doug did, to be honest with you, but also once in this video where he interviews thatguywiththeglasses.com while he's on a toilet, and that guy is a shitting in the sink, I guess.
Hello. Didn't hear you come in.
What do you mean you didn't hear me come in? This is my room. I'm on the toilet. But why aren't you wearing any pants?
This is the bathroom. I shouldn't need to wear pants.
I'm using the bathroom, though.
It's funny. Looks like I'm using the bathroom.
Oh. Well, seeing as you're here, I did have some questions for you. What's the stickiest substance known to man?
It's coming out of me right now.
That was a loaded question. I should have asked that. We always see you with your pipe there.
Yeah.
What is in it?
I don't know. Science and the cops have decided that it's not legal yet. But it makes me say strange things, apparently.
That explains a lot.
Does it?
No.
Okay.
What is more evil? Cutting someone off in traffic, taking the last slice of pizza, leaving a little bit of orange juice left and putting it back in the fridge, or eating a live kitten?
I'd say taking the last slice of pizza while eating a live kitten, while driving, and also cutting someone's penis off.
In the movie, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey,
Classic.
Death explains to God that they Melvined him. Have you ever Melvined someone?
I personally have not, but I do know someone named Melvin. He did not live very long because apparently people did not like him, but I was told that he was Melvin before because his name was Melvin. But since he is dead now, it makes it all the more funny because dead people are funny and hilarious because they're not alive anymore. I love that.
On a final note on that Sci-Fi Guy, I can't really tell you what happened to him. He seems to have left this persona behind and has also left content creation in general from what I could find, as all of his old socials and even his old website connected to this persona have all been taken down. He could be making videos under a new username or persona somewhere, but I wasn't able to find any such thing of this. So I have to assume he probably just moved on with his life to other pastures, which is respectable. But on the whole, I would say that his content that is there to be seen was actually pretty good, and definitely is what I would consider a much more obscure underrated gem from Team That Guy with the Glasses. Cold Guy. So Cold Guy, real name Patrick Burden, is interesting, and that there is kind of some videos to show you, but the bulk of this particular creator's contributions had to do with the site's often overlooked article section, as well as the podcast stuff, which again, while there were quite a few podcasts on the site, I do tend to notice these are far lesser talked about in general, and sadly, almost all of them being lost to the sands of time. I guess that's what happens when so many of these videos in the early days were exclusively uploaded through Blip, and with it being over and defunct now, if those same creators didn't take the time to either save their stuff personally or upload them elsewhere like YouTube, or if no one felt the need to save these videos or podcasts and the like, they are all sadly gone forever. A tragic tale we will no doubt be running into as we dive into more and more obscure creators on the site. Which brings us back to Cold Guy, who has honestly one of the most extensive articles on thatguywiththeglasses.com wiki, which I suppose I'll just go ahead and quote with some of this stuff, since some of it strangely almost reads like it's him describing his own story, which makes me wonder if he was a contributor to this wiki. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he was. But anywho, quote, Cold Guy as a child did writing on and off. Nothing worth a damn to see at this point in elementary school. However, on November 10th of 1998, he saw at the dollar store a kick-ass journal with Yakko, Wacko, and Dot on the cover. Using the telekinetic powers that he had, he convinced his mother to purchase said journal, and he wrote his first entry entitled This Kicks Ass, and thus the writing career began of this enigma that is known as Cold Guy. In the past 10 years, Cold Guy has been featured on a variety of sites, including Press Start Comics, RetroWare TV, Random Brain Particles, Zangu, This Is a Typical Blog, and The Code Vault. ThatGuyWithTheGlasses.com is the 9th website of involvement, while all the others, with the exception of Press Start Comics and RetroWare TV, all folded under due to various .com issues. Cold Guy was nominated in the first Best of Blog competition on ThatGuyWithTheGlasses.com, where he placed second behind Lord Von Quack, aka Rollo T. And due to his second place entry, Cold Guy became a featured writer on the website. Unquote. So in other words, Cold Guy had already sort of been around writing blogs for a bit by the time he registered on ThatGuyWithTheGlasses.com in May of 2008, blogging away to his heart's content as he did everywhere else. Now, what were these blogs about, you may ask? Well, there seemed to be a variety of content that he wrote about, which the wiki page once again details, with some of them being, quote, The Misadventures of a Retail Game Guy, which was an honest look into the grind of what is video game retail as told from someone within the trenches, usually focusing in on the nuances of the business rather than the customers themselves. You get to realize why this is not the perfect gig as many would expect, unquote. Or one-sentence reviews, which was exactly what it sounds like, him reviewing something complex in one sentence. You could say they were kind of the written equivalent to the 5-second movie reviews in that way. Or there was Randomous Rants, which is described as, quote, a world in the land of Hublerosity, meaning whatever the fuck is on my mind. This is where Cold Guy holds nothing back from his views into the world and ensures that whatever is the issue is resolved quickly, unquote. He also did random reviews on just about everything. A series called Bookends, which were simply book reviews for the average readers out there. A Download This, which is described as, quote, Cold Guy telling you why you need to download good freeware games online, the games usually are tested for ass-kicking approval, as well as spyware/virus scan on his deluxe scanning computer software, unquote. Or Game Battle, which were basically game reviews, but where he would review 2 or 3 games all at once and tell you why each one would win against the other in a fight, and that type of thing. There's more, but yeah, needless to say, if you were an avid reader of the articles on thatguywiththeglasses.com, Cool Guy was pretty much your full-time guy for everything that you could imagine. Mind you, writing blogs was actually something many could easily do, as it was one of the features on the site that kind of allowed people to get a foot into the door on the website. Creatively speaking, I mean. Though most obviously didn't actually become full-time creators from making blogs on the site, with them instead just being occasional blog-type posters, which was the majority of them. There were still quite a few, though, that did end up becoming full-time creators through one means or another through this blog section, which is why there was competitions held once in a while based around best articles or just articles of the week type stuff, to kind of not only give it and the community more attention, but also to again give the chance to some of these writers and video creators to possibly become part of the larger site's ecosystem in a more meaningful and notably paid way. It's hard to fully gauge how many fully engaged on the site's blog system, since, truth be told, going over the Internet Archive pages, it's a section that was less documented than some, and there are certain features of the blog system, I suppose, that you needed an account to be able to actually see, which you obviously can't really do or use on the Internet Archive. But what can be seen is there was certainly a ton of blogs being written on there, seemingly all the time. But how many people were then taking the time to read or engage with most of these blogs is kind of a different story. From what I was able to gather from sort of looking around the site's archives and looking specifically for blogs to comment ratios, I feel like I can confidently say that while not as many people engaged with the blog section as, say, most of the other parts of the site, it did have a very dedicated, smaller niche community that I figured was well worth shining a spotlight on, since I kind of, again, never see anyone else talk about it. Especially since you can actually find some rather interesting faces in there that you might not expect, such as Review Tech USA. Yeah, you know, Rich, the lolcow who deleted his own YouTube channel. Maybe you're not familiar with him. There's a lot of other people who have covered his story here on YouTube, but regardless, the main point here is that the dude, back in August of 2010, tried his hand at blogs/reviews on thatguywiththeglasses.com when he was still very early on in his video content creation career. He even wrote this little introductory thing where he details how back in 2009 he was laid off from his IT position at IBM due to the economic crisis. Now, he went to college for communications. In his free time he did quite a lot of video and audio editing, which eventually turned into him making a YouTube page, which at the time of him writing that had close to 2,000 subscribers, from him doing video game reviews as well as product reviews for websites such as ThinkGeek.com and the Stone Age Gamer. He also says that for those who are willing to watch his videos, to prepare to laugh out loud and to be thoroughly entertained. And then he had linked a review of Halo Combat Evolved, which I suppose I should note in case it wasn't clear by now. The blogs weren't just a place where people were writing reviews. They could actually post links to their YouTube channel and have those, like, videos they made posted up on the blog. Almost like a little bit of free advertising from the website for those who took the time to look at the blog section. Which again, even if the general public didn't use as much, the Transmission Awesome podcast was very likely to discuss videos that they found particularly fun or interesting, if they were in fact fun and interesting. While we're here in this little section, another random one I found was this one called The Anime Reviewer, or Cool Firebird, who I had never heard of before, but whom was one of the staff picks of back in the day, and after just a little bit of digging I managed to find this person's original YouTube channel and see exactly what that video was that seemed to have gotten such high praise from them back in August of 2010.
Oh man. Here we go again. I bet all of you are wondering how I escaped the last game way back. Let's just say, only one of us made it to McDonald's. Man, that was scary. Oh, a prize! These are always so hard to open. Oh, thanks! Is it safe? Okay. Clock Tower 2. Well, it's called Clock Tower 2 in Japan. Here it's just Clock Tower. Because the first one never came to America. Which makes this opening all the more confusing! Oh man, the voice acting. Well, I will say that it does have a summary of what happened in Clock Tower The First Fear. Though not as interesting as playing the game itself, nor do you get the full story of what happened. Anyway, the story begins a year after the first game. Jennifer is living in Oslo, which is in Norway, living with Helen Maxwell, a research assistant for Samuel Barton, who works at the Oslo Research University.
Yeah, they were a video game reviewer, but they actually animated little parts of their show, which was a pretty fun and creative concept, especially back in 2010. In fact, I can't even think of another one that had this exact gimmick back then off the top of my head.
As scary as the first. Don't get me wrong, it is scary, and there are some good moments. Yeah, gets me every time. Yeah! Murder mystery, eh? And it's a Sierra game. Huh. Gonna have to get my thinking hat on. Ah, thank you. Let's crack the case.
They seem to have stopped making videos a long time ago, but still, it was kind of cool to see this little content creator that was really trying to make their mark back in the day that just never quite made it. I could go on about this, and honestly, maybe doing a deep dive into this blog section of the website is worth its own video, or maybe bonus video in the future, if you guys would be interested in that, of course. But for now, I just wanted to showcase it a bit to show you some familiar and not so familiar faces that I found on it pretty quickly. But this section was about Cold Guy originally, right? We really fucking got off topic. Okay, so what else did Cold Guy do? Well, I've mentioned it at least once by now, but Cold Guy was one of the original hosts for the Channel Awesome podcast, Transmission Awesome, though according to the wiki, he was only there for the first season, with the show being created by Rollo T, that aforementioned person who actually won that original blog post contest, as well as various other site contributors and creators being hosts or guests on there from season to season. The podcast seemed to go like this. There was almost always an interview with one of the creators from the site, followed by a musical break in later seasons, then spotlighting the blog of the week, as well as usually a section dedicated to thatguywiththeglasses.com's forum. So pretty much everything from the very top creators down to complete randoms in the forum sections would be showcased over the course of 1 hour per episode. So I suppose in that sense, the podcast really did a good job of showcasing nearly every aspect of the website's community, creators, and culture that there was to cover.
Hey guys, welcome to Transmission Awesome, the exclusive podcast for that guy with the glasses and bored shitless.
Where's the Super Nintendo?
I think you may have a very serious case of throat cancer.
There are a ton of episodes, 74 to be exact, again each an hour long, so I certainly didn't go through and watch them all, or rather listen to them all, since it is just an audio podcast as far as I'm aware. But you can actually listen to them via an Internet Archive page, and the wiki is quite descriptive in noting what each episode is about, so you can go and take a deeper dive into the ones that seem interesting to you if you like. I'll go ahead and leave a link in the description to that down below. By now, you might have started to notice something about this whole Cold Guy section. That being that Cold Guy was kind of all over the place on the site. Hell, if you remember all the way back near the start of this retrospective series, I showcased that anniversary video where the nerd and the critic, as well as a bunch of the other ThatGuyWithTheGlasses.com site creators, had their a big final battle at the time. Well, Cold Guy is there too, in that 1 year anniversary, hosting the thing as a sort of live commentator.
It is a beautiful day for a brawl, isn't it, Cold Guy? It certainly is, Royalty. As we can see, all the fighters are destined to destroy one another in an epic battle to death.
Hard! Hard!
I'm sure glad our egos only extend to podcasts as opposed to videos, or else we might be getting our asses kicked in this ugly mess.
Right you are, Gonzo.
Shout out to him also being one of the guys who happened to have the Captain S original pilot episode that was only on the Captain S DVD set. That while Brett Vanderbrook himself ended up actually giving me that episode beforehand, before we did our little interview and what have you, I nonetheless appreciated Cold Guy reaching out to me to give me the episode as well shortly after. Cold Guy is truly everywhere you look, always lurking in the background, never fully acknowledged, but there all the same. And in fact, if it were not for him, many of the site's creators might not have ever been picked up or discovered by the site's community, as noted in the wiki. Quote, Cold Guy is the creator of Awesome Blogs of the Week, where Cold Guy would find the blog. At first, this was a weekly article series that eventually turned into a feature on the podcast Transmission Awesome. Although Cold Guy does pick awesome blogs on the podcast, today the feature lives on and helps find the talent of ThatGuyWithTheGlasses.com. Many people are now contributing to the site in one way or another, include the Dramatic Monarch, the Dudette, also known as Lindsay Ellis, Dr. Gonzo, Braden Orr, Lee Davidge, Linkara, The Cat, Paul Dungan, Rabbi Welshi, Y Ruler of Time, Chaos D1, and Juwario. So yeah, pretty crazy shit. Also, oh my god, did you see how many people I still have to cover? I'm never fucking escaping this website. But anyway, some of you might be wondering though. Okay, Dylan, that's cool and all, but did Cold Guy ever make any videos of his own? And yeah, he did. A few. Like this one, where he plays video games with his feet, that has exactly 666 views.
I'm Cold Guy from ThatGuyWithTheGlasses.com. Actually, this video has nothing to do with that. This was actually, I'm in the process of cleaning right now and organizing some stuff, and I was listening to the Game Heroes podcast. On the podcast, 8-Bit Mickey challenged anybody to go and beat one level using nothing but their feet. So I thought, I got everything out of the whack here, so might as well give it a shot. So, I'm going to flip the camera and show you what I got here. Okay, I apologize in advance. I'm using both my hands for camera usage since, well, they're going to be free anyway. So the game I chose was Super Mario Brothers. Apologize for the TV. That's a 27-inch CRT monitor hooked up with a VGA box. That is connected to a giant splitter to the NES with the NES Advantage. Now let's try to get this properly in frame here so you can see NES Advantage, B button, A button, and the joystick. I thought this would give me the best chance with minimal effort possible. So, why don't we start at the game? So we go start button again. Keep the volume low so you can hear the feet doing the thing here. Get over here. Pacifist run, I guess. You may want to call it. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Alright. The dreaded Goomba. I got one. Right. There we go. Forgot. There you go, Mickey. You just saw me beat the first game of Mario Brothers, or sorry, first level of Mario Brothers with nothing more than my feet. The NES with the advantage. Let's actually pause that. Flip it over. So I can say, completely pointless, yes, but 3 minutes, nothing else better to do. Need a break from cleaning anyway. Best of luck with the podcast, and best of luck with your next challenge.
Or, this one, where he talks about his book club.
Oh, hi! Yeah, sorry about that. You know, I've just been having a bad habit of leaving this thing on all the time, so... oh well, vlog time. Before I get started, go Flyers! I still say in 6 games they will win. If they don't, they missed the goldenest opportunity imaginable. But I do think they are going to win in 6, so... Sorry, Chicago fans. I gotta represent. I'm from the area. I kind of have to root for them. But... with that being said of the little update vlog, I'm going to focus in, like the camera, on things of the matter. So, for those who don't know, the book club is going to be this Friday. Yes, not... okay, I do apologize for the last book club. I got my days mixed up due to some scheduling changes in regard to Spinebreakers podcast. So, I am sorry about that, but it is going to be Friday. If I tweet on Thursday that it's going to be that night, please tweet me back and say you're a fucking moron. Fix it. So, okay. Get that out of the way. So, the book in question is Atlas Shrugged. There you go. By Ayn Rand. Now, this book was suggested by Rabbi, our faithful viewer, co-hoster of Spinebreakers. One problem with this is that it's a thick book. It's my version is 800 pages. I've seen versions go up to 1,000 pages. So, are we reading the whole thing? Hell no. We're bi-weekly podcasts every 2 weeks.
Yeah, they were pretty silly or mundane things, honestly, with his main actual series he had on the site being Foreign Delicacies, which the wiki notes as being about, quote, a film review series where he takes a look at foreign films that many people outside of their respective countries may have never seen before. The series takes a look at each film and discusses their positives and negatives, while giving the worldwide audience a taste of films from around the world, unquote. It's an interesting premise, especially for its time, but how do the videos hold up? Well, there was apparently only ever 3 episodes made, with them covering the movies Volver, Life is Beautiful, and The Lizard. However, looking around for some time, I can't seem to find these videos anywhere. I'm not sure if Cold Guy still has them or not. I suppose I really should just ask them at some point. Or if they are truly lost, but either way, we can't really look at them today. Still, I would say it's doing Cold Guy a bit of a disservice to focus on his videos, since they really were not his major contribution to the site, which is everything else he did in contributing to the community and the creator pool of the site. So, yeah, I guess you could say he's a pretty cool guy. Hope Within Chaos. Hope Within Chaos, real name Sean Foz, is another one of those creators who is seldom mentioned in discussion about ThatGuyWithTheGlasses.com peeps, and is also, truthfully, one of my many blind spots, as I had also never really watched them, like, at all back in the day. That being said, according to the wiki, quote, he started out in the blog area with a Soul Calibur 4 review, seemingly going by unnoticed. He then upgraded to video performances by starting an epic fail list, which over time has started to increase in both production and popularity. Once only getting a few hundred views at a time, it has become one of the more popular videos in the blogs, racking up thousands of views at a time and becoming a regular in the best of blogs area, unquote. He is also one of the many hosts for Transmission Awesome, but his main claim to fame is his series Epic Fail, which at times is either a variety show type thing, sort of a commentary video on random stuff he saw on the internet, or I guess in movies as well. It's kind of a Ray William Johnson type thing, but for more cringe or strange related stuff specifically, or at times focusing on like one major thing he saw as an epic fail.
It's hypnotizing. I love you, Cheetos. Keeping with the subject of screwing with your mind, these weird occurrences while making out aren't just restricted to these Japanese actors either, oh no. It's also migrated over to animation. With Rule 34 and all the odd things all over the internet, pretty much everything's been drawn already, whether it should have been drawn or not, so it's kinda hard to be caught off guard anymore. Leave it to anime creators to master the art of surprise.
僕たち、これでまた一つ大人になっていくんだね。あ、ついにこの日が。あ、これが大人のキスなのか。
なんじゃこりゃ。
I agree with my shirt. At first you think it's just gonna be a simple little animation of a kid getting his first kiss. You know, innocent, sweet, simple enough. Sure, the emphasis on the tongue was a little creepy, but you really had to feel for the kid. You could just move past that. But then he ate her. He ate her! And I'm sure if there'd been a sex scene in this, it would have been the male animated equivalent to the movie Teeth. And we all know how that went, so thank God that didn't happen. Is it too much to ask for things just to make a little bit of goddamn sense?
The videos he presents can be pretty funny, out there, or interesting, so it is kind of entertaining in that way. And I suppose it was ahead of its time, since it's kind of a bit of a cringe compilation before such a thing existed. Though I must admit that Sean's actual commentary is kind of... It's not great in my opinion. It's usually just him saying, how does this thing exist? Like, how could this have happened? Why could this have happened? That's totally crazy! Given a more witty delivery or commentary, this series had the potential to be a lot more interesting, personality-wise. Oh yeah, and also, he featured Ju Wario on one of the episodes, where they talk about horse competitions.
Have you ever seen any horse shows?
Well, there was that one website that was kind of kinky with a freaky girl.
No, not that kind.
Oh, you mean the competitions? Oh, yeah, sure.
Right. Well, sometimes competitions can be either delayed or canceled because horses, they get sick. But unfortunately, sometimes they just say fuck it.
Well, it's kind of weird, but you know, you can't really help that the disease is going around.
The contestants, proud parents, and judges were ready. One thing missing, the only horses in the arena were in this bucket because of an outbreak of a contagious and fatal horse herpes virus.
A stick horse, it's a lot different because you have to do all the work, and I think it's going to be a lot more tiring than with a real horse.
What really shined were the true traits of a queen, poise and personality amid trying times.
It'll give you experience for, you know, things. If you happen to have a problem like this later in life, you already have the experience of riding a stick horse.
Do they really do that when the horses are sick?
No, they don't. Smart companies just delay the competition, cancel it outright, move it to a different date, something else. When a big part of your competition is sick, you can't compete.
Well, I mean, hey, even if the horses weren't there, we can definitely know the girls can ride. Ride the pony. Oh, yeah.
Dude, they're like 16, if that.
16. Oh, yeah.
It's legal in Europe.
The more of this series I watched, the more and more I found the clips themselves to be really, really interesting and funny little time capsules. And the more and more the commentary started to grate on my nerves, if I'm gonna keep it $1.50. Like, sometimes the clips really do speak for themselves, and he kind of just feels like the annoying couch goblin that while everyone else is laughing at the room, he's gotta be yelling and getting genuinely fucking mad about how it's an insult to film and directors and art itself, and like the creators who came before or some fucking shit. Just kind of inshitifying the whole atmosphere, you know what I mean? There's a time and a place for that, of course, but sometimes when you're looking at just a silly, dumbass fucking clip, it can kind of be a bit of a buzzkill, you know what I mean? Like, he's kind of just a really angry Ray William Johnson, and more often than not, he'll just show a clip from a Japanese show or commercial or anime that is clearly meant to be goofy or silly or random. You know, like a joke, comedy, weird, out there, silly shit. And this rotund man will then show you these funny clips, and then he'll scream at the camera, overreact and say, "What the fuck, Japan?" and then explain the joke for up to a minute or 2 minutes at a time.
When it comes to kids' stories, a lot of them are fairly simple, and as such, a lot of people will create their own stories or take existing ones and make their own changes to it to try and cash in on this, especially if it's got some simple animations to back it up. While the creator of Mr. Ando of the Woods surely had the best in mind when he made it, what he created is truly frightening.
蜂蜜をペロってしてもいいですかでするだけとおっしゃっておきながら結局ペロペロペロペロペロペロペロペロペロペロペロペロペロペロペロペロペロペロペロペロペロペロ
It gets worse.
本当は安藤さん人間なんだろ俺俺ペンギンよ俺ペンギン人間なわけないじゃん人間はペンなんて言わんよヒューマニズムって言うじゃないですか開発じゃい開発じゃい開発じゃい開発じゃいあ安藤さんブー安藤さんがペンギンかどうかはわからずじまいでも一つだけ確かなことがある安藤さんあんた心のペンギンだよ
So let me get this straight. Mr. Ando is a human who dresses like a penguin to protect the woodland creatures of a forest from a fat Hitler with a bulldozer. But the woodland creatures have human faces. As a matter of fact, they all have the same face. And they speak human languages. And that fish is really fucking creepy. How does this exist? Wait. I get it. It's some alternate reality crap. That's where they get you. See, if this was the reality we all knew, Mr. Ando couldn't exist, because a human can't be a penguin. Even though he uses peng, he can't be a penguin. So you know what? If Mr. Ando, if he can be a penguin... Do it again! Come on, do it again! Now, I don't know exactly what led up to this car accident, but I'm pretty sure none of us care. I've seen better stop-motion animation in claymation I did back in elementary school. Either that or they filmed it in uber slow motion and sped it up way too fast. Either way, it's just terrible. Come on, Japan! I expect that out of a Steven Seagal film. Not you! Seeing as I live in Kentucky, I can see the draw of horse races. We do have the Kentucky Derby, after all. They are real-life horses, real races with real jockeys that people love to watch, bet on, you know the drill. Japan, I guess, saw this and decided they wanted to have horse races too. But animated. Oh boy.
全世界の競馬ファンが待ちに待ったスタートしました世界最強決戦混戦模様のジャパンワールドカップ各馬大乱闘そこでハリボテ壊れたそして3番直線番長も出てきているさらに外から4番ハリウッドリムジン内側5番バーニングビーフ後方に6番サバンナストライプそして7番ジラフからペンキの匂いさあ最後の直線と大外ジラフが大興奮銀シャリも立ち上がったピンクフェロモンはすでにバーニングビーフの上ボディが伸びるハリウッドリムジン戸惑う直線番長ジラフ来たすごい首並んだそのままゴールどうなったリプレイ首を伸ばすジラフああ動物好きのエドワードお坊ちゃんが今長い廊下を渡ってただいま
I don't even know how to process this, let alone even comment on it. You've got normal horses, but then you've got oxes and zebras and giraffes and some hippo horse hybrid looking thing and a human horse that's clearly got human legs. You've got a horse that's riding on top of an ox. There's a horse that's growing as it runs. There's a horse running on 2 legs, a giraffe headbanging to unheard metal. What the fuck, Japan? Are you trying to destroy what little lifespan I have left by sheer stupidity? If so, I think it's working.
Maybe it's just a relic from an older time, but the whole, man, isn't Japan weird stuff, while reasonable to some degree for sure, does kind of become super cringe at some point when it's so clearly not meant to be taken seriously.
It has been a while, hasn't it? So I guess we shouldn't waste any time here. You all may or may not remember a while ago in an Epic Fail video, I used a clip of Japanese women learning English via exercise, and I think we all collectively agreed that it was just bizarre and absurd and it probably wouldn't work. But apparently it does, somehow, which is frightening enough. But I've always wondered, could it work the other way around? Could men learn Japanese via those same exercises? Well...
The first expression, domo, domo.
Domo, domo. Domo, domo. Oi, oi. Oi, oi. Oi, oi.
Interested in learning Japanese for a very long time, and I just haven't been able to grasp it. But here! Here is how you do it. But something tells me that it's not just the exercise that's helping, but it's in fact the shorts that they're wearing that help fuel the learning experience. I mean, just look at the guy in the middle. He's so confident, so happy, and his shorts are mere centimeters away from becoming a thong. There has to be something special in those shorts. Something that helps osmosis the information into the brain. I'd say that this is a +1 for science. Speaking of exercising, there comes a time in everybody's life where they just get fed up with their look and go into a drastic overhaul mode to better themselves how they see fit. Now clearly, this hasn't happened to me yet, but for the woman in this clip, it was a long time coming. And now that she's done what she needs to do, she wants to help your dogs do the same.
Hi, I'm Mariko Takahashi. Can you guess who this is? Yes, it's me. You can't believe it, huh? Thanks. Beauty and strength. This is connected to everything in life. Connected to victory and happiness. Victory and happiness is the most important thing for everyone. Okay, let's go. Pump the arms like you're in the mud. Shoulders down, chest open. Tighten your stomach. Deep breath in. Oh, nice control. And up.
Remember, kids, drastic weight loss will give you giant tumors in your arms and legs. There's something to look forward to, huh? I can see what they were going for here, but mother of God, the amount of nightmare fuel they provided in just a single video. That is frightening. Though I do find it incredible just how buff it made her arms and legs. If she did in fact earn those muscles herself. But, between you and me, I think they're implants.
So yeah, not really my thing commentary-wise, but again, the actual clips can be pretty funny. Sean did also do some game reviews from the time to time, though he did those more under the Blistered Thumbs department of the site, which is a whole other couple of videos that we'll be getting to later on. And for the most part, they are pretty short and to the point. Nothing too crazy, and overall, not bad I suppose. But yeah, that's pretty much it for old Sean. I'm not super into his commentary, but I will say the concept of his show, Epic Fail, was pretty innovative and interesting for its time. And I did end up watching quite a few of them, so I suppose there is that. Though I will say that it's kind of interesting that up until very recently, most of his videos were pretty much lost as far as I could tell, with there not being a true archive of all of his content anywhere to be found. But at least some of his videos have been uploaded by the YouTuber... Paw Dugan. Paw Dugan, often shortened to just Paw, real name Paul Schuler, had an interesting contribution to the site, with him notably being the first music reviewer on there. Paw first came onto the scene in December 2008, when he posted his first 2 sessions of Full Circle, a series described as the continuing evolution of music and how it shaped his life. Starting with early childhood, Paw works his way up to high school and college. It was kind of a personal project in that regard, deeply so for him. However, sadly, I was not able to find most of this. A lot of his videos can currently be accessed through the Internet Archive, as well as a Daily Motion page. And there I was able to find the finale part to this Full Circle series, but I couldn't seem to find the other parts, which is pretty disappointing. Nevertheless, I suppose I can at least show you what the finale was to get some kind of idea of what it was like. Well, you see, since he had reached the end of his current life as far as like his tastes in music and stuff goes, because he got to modern day, he couldn't really continue the series any further for the time being. So he decided that the best way to end the series would be for him to end himself. But he doesn't believe in that, and so he enlists the help of a sumo ninja played by Sean.
When does the circle become complete?
The circle begins, of course, at birth and doesn't end until death, but I'm not planning on keeping the series going that long.
Are you planning to commit suicide, dude? Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah, I don't even think you can complete the series at that point.
Being a man of my word, a man's gotta do what a man's gotta do. But I don't believe in suicide. I believe it exists, but it's time to get creative.
Have a fan line leaving behind after all. Alright, sumo ninja. The final word in inexpensive ninja and ninja-related services. Alright. Why can't I hear it ringing?
Because your daddy touches you at night.
Why have you summoned the sumo ninja?
I need to off myself in spectacular fashion. I really don't have that much cash on me. You take credit?
No.
You take Borders reward card?
Nope.
Got a $10 gift card to Pizza Hut?
Done.
What proceeds is a pretty funny chase scene, and even though I'm sure this isn't maybe representative of the whole music analysis part of this series, this manic schizo type of energy already kind of sold me on the whole thing. Beyond that series though, Paul also had 2 other series he was known for, music games and music movies, which basically was him reviewing the OST of video games and him reviewing movie musicals of all kinds. Both of which, sadly again, can only be accessed through the Internet Archive. All the same, I suppose we should take a quick peek at them anyway. Starting with music movies, and pretty quickly it becomes apparent why the series is no longer, or rather never was, on YouTube. And that's because Paul actually does review the songs, their significance to the plot, instrumentation, symbolism, etc., all while letting the songs at times speak for themselves, after he's given the proper context to them. And yeah, it's pretty damn good as far as music analysis goes, in my opinion, but sadly is also not something I can show too much of here on YouTube either, because copyright once again ruins fucking everything, as per usual. All the same, I will say, for their time, they are pretty well made videos, and pretty chill in atmosphere as well. It does help that I'm quite a big fan of musicals anyway, and so it's just kind of fun hearing someone discuss them and go over all the details of them, I suppose.
So yeah, the choice between having the courage to talk to his long-fanned flame of stalkery love for Penny, or continuing with his no-goodnick-ish antics. And via this conflict, we meet the third of our main characters, Captain Hammer.
Stand back, everyone, nothing here to see. Just in a danger in the middle of it, me.
His job is to be the same bully who would have egocentrically noogied a kid like Billy relentlessly in middle school to prove his self-worth. So, if Billy is the nerd who never grew up, then Hammer is the same jock bully type who never grew up either, thus entrapping them both in a vicious cycle of selfish pride.
I'll give you to catch your breath.
A Man's Gotta Do starts off as one of the weakest songs thus far, but after Hammer foils Horrible's heist, it becomes extremely clever as 3 layers of verses intertwine.
So please give me a sec to catch my breath.
I inadvertently introduced my arch nemesis to the girl of my dreams, and now he's taking her out on dates, and they're probably going to French kiss or something.
There are so many wondrous things about the inception of DeSalb that make it so enjoyable to watch, even discounting the film itself. Firstly, the only thing that separates the average internet filmmaker to Whedon and Company is just their access to better than average equipment. With a little ingenuity and perseverance, anyone could make something as polished as Dr. Horrible. It's really inspiring.
So how can it be that you have shown me the light? It's a brand new day and the sun is high. All the birds are singing that you're gonna die.
So we must wonder, who's the best emo conflicted villain here? Dr. Horrible or Megamind? Well, Megamind kinda already had the arch nemesis who suddenly died, thus spiraling him into an existential crisis, whereas Horrible suffers from a similar, if not less tragic, form of a lack of evil propellant. Then again, with all the shades of gray morality being thrown around, what with Dr. Horrible erring on the side of pacifistic evil, say, here, and Captain Hammer occupying this region over here, and his douchery is what forced Horrible to swing the pendulum over to here, there's something to be said about the morality here. I mean, Dr. Horrible up until this point was generally benign. A minor menace, a minuscule malfeasant, a piddling pilferer. And yet it's the supposedly heroic Hammer that creates an even worse monster. It seems to be an inexorable part of the villain and hero dichotomy. Without Batman, there would be no Joker. Without Jack Napier, there would be no Batman. So the whole villain-hero evolution thing just keeps on trucking.
It's a brand new day.
Also, funnily enough, it took me way too long to realize Paul's little ensemble that he's wearing features him always wearing a pair of headphones. Because, you know, he's the music guy? Yeah. As for video game music stuff, it was more of the same sort of thing, but for video games. He had one series called Great Moments in Video Game Music, where he would highlight a particular song or a musical moment in a video game that he felt was really well done. This series, I suppose, kind of serving the point of highlighting how amazing video game soundtracks can be, despite them quite often being seen as lesser to many for whatever reason, or at least they were back then. He also did some top 9 lists for video game musical composers, video game OSTs in general, and all that sort of stuff.
Games, he was approached by game designer and future Square president Hironobu Sakaguchi to score his most ambitious project, which would make or break Squaresoft, which ultimately became Final Fantasy. With the game's success, Uematsu's name has become synonymous with the Final Fantasy franchise, his ambitious scores elevating the series to near legendary status. Uematsu's uncompromising style, dedication to his craft, and globe-spanning influence has made him well-deserving of being named the top video game composer of all time. Long live the king.
All of which, again, was pretty well done. Honestly, I get the feeling had he continued to make content, or simply had a way of presenting his videos without them getting copyright struck to hell and back, he would have been a pretty popular pick these days, as music-related retrospectives and reviews are pretty big nowadays, and have been for quite some time, but were especially difficult back then, especially if you're going to show any of the actual music. Paul also did a retrospective series on King's Quest, all of which you actually can watch here on his YouTube channel currently. These were a bit different from the normally highly music-focused type videos, in that they were simply just retrospectives on this game series in their totality. Makes me wonder if he was slightly inspired by the likes of Spoonie with his Ultima series retrospective, since this is kind of structured in a similar fashion. Either way though, these are yet again pretty good videos, leaning more on the simple and calm informative side with the occasional joke here or there. An interesting side note about Paw is that he later collaborated with fellow ThatGuyWithTheGlasses.com contributor Elisa Hansen, who beforehand was mostly known as the friend and the occasional roommate of Lindsay Ellis. Elisa helped write videos for Nostalgia Chick, in addition to having appeared as a cast member for the series, and continues to do so for Lindsay's newer videos after the show had ended. Or at least that's what the wiki says. I'm not so sure if she still does that to this day, but yeah. Anywho, she was obsessed with the Phantom of the Opera, which led her to eventually doing a cameo in Paul's musical reviews, notably to pester him into reviewing another Phantom-related musical after Schumacher's movie, that being Phantom of the Paradise. Sometime shortly after the two began dating and eventually got married and even had a son together. I'm not sure how their family's doing these days, but I do hope that they're doing well. Paul doesn't really make stuff these days as far as videos go, at least not that I could really tell. While Elisa would actually go on to make her own content for her own YouTube channel, a Maven of the Eventide, where she reviews vampire movies mainly. We won't dive into her stuff right now though, due to it kind of going a bit too far off topic and track, but I figured I should note it all the same.
Tonight, we will sink our teeth into Joel Schumacher's 1987 vampire classic, The Lost Boys.
But overall, my dive into Paul's works was a pleasant one. If not sadly a bit, well, sad for the fact that his online legacy is sort of scattershot all over the web with no true full archive of all of his work, from what I could tell. But from what I was able to see, it was all pretty damn good. Mike J. Next on our docket is Mike J, real name Mike Jevons, or Jevons maybe, with his main claim to fame being his series Shameful Sequels. Though according to the wiki, before that he originally got his start on the site with, quote, posting blogs on ThatGuyWithTheGlasses.com as a sock puppet named The Sock. In this persona, he had a gruff voice and reviewed many different things, such as movies and shows like Denver the Last Dinosaur. After ditching the persona and losing to Bennett the Sage in the first Best of Blogs contest, he reinvented himself as a reviewer of bad sequels. This earned him many Best of Blogs and a spot on the site, unquote. Now, in my research, I did find that while quite a lot of Mike's work is on his current YouTube channel, it seems sadly, like most of these fellows, a ton of it is not there and is instead on the Internet Archive. That is where the bulk of his Shameful Sequel series is. A series all about Mike, well, reviewing shameful sequels for the most part. So what's the show like? Well, looking over what we got here, the first thing I noticed is he actually doesn't always cover sequels. In fact, he doesn't do it nearly as much as I thought he would, given the name of the series. I mean, he does, but just as often he reviews just kind of bad movies in general. All the same, his actual reviews are alright. Once again, he does much of the same as the other movie reviewers on the site, which means he's overall pretty watchable, but if I'm looking at him and comparing him with others on the site, I really can't tell you that his series had much to stand out with, especially since many of his jokes are just kind of, well, they just aren't my thing, I suppose.
Did he just flip that mop up like a rake? How... Why am I even bothering? And then straight away he dreams about starring in a workout DVD? Like all pandas do, I guess. Poor Pan Cotter then falls in his bucket right in front of the sexy nurse bear. Oh, I really don't know what the hell these characters are. Time for the boxing club to host a fight between long-standing champion Teddy and...
This could be the night that anything happens!
A Care Bear. That is obviously a Care Bear. I guess it's just supposed to be a reference, but I don't know why it's a Care Bear. It could be any bear. What's the point in it being a Care Bear? Actually, there is no word for what that is. Let's invent one. That is just doik. That's right. Doik. Hello, I'm a British person, and you're going to have to excuse me if I seem a little out of sorts today. I've just found out that Britain is only 50 miles away from France. That's disgusting. But I will try my hardest to keep myself composed while I take a look at the 2010 sequel to Cats and Dogs 2, The Revenge of Kitty Galore. Hello, I'm a British person, and I would like to thank you, the people of the internet, for what you're about to do to me.
It wasn't enough that I had to sit through what at the time was the worst film ever rated on IMDb. Apparently me suffering through Baby Geniuses 2 amused you. You enjoyed watching it. Look at me. Look at the pain in my face. Right after I finished shooting that video, I vomited violently for weeks. I became ill, dependent on substances. I was in a dark place.
I went to Burger King and asked for a Big Mac. Who does that?
I don't know. I don't find the series annoying or anything. I just honestly struggle to find anything to write about here in this section because he's just kinda okay. Not very funny or interesting, but not completely boring or irritating to listen to. Just truly middle of the road as far as these types of videos go. So why don't we talk about the other types of videos he made then? Well, first and foremost, Mike made several videos in his Brief History of Britain series, where he talked about British history, but like from different angles like TV, food, etc. But it's all actually just a big joke or satire of sorts.
But television hasn't always been like this. Television, in its earliest form, was invented in 1627 by a man known as Terence Vision. Terry was an avid fan of a local travelling freak show, which he would visit frequently. The trouble for Terry was, the show only visited his area 3 or 4 times a year. This was a problem for Terry. He wanted his entertainment to hand whenever he pleased. Terry set out to change things. He constructed a box and placed it in the centre of his living room. Inside the box, he kept Mungo, a mentally handicapped boy who he would sit and watch for hours at a time. Terry found that his invention drew a lot of attention, so proceeded to sell his freak boxes to others in the area.
He also made this little song called English to American, which is actually one of the more popular videos on his channel.
These chips are fries, this queue a line, this tap a faucet, wardrobe a closet, vacation, holiday, underground, subway, chemist, a drugstore, autumn is fall, a garden is yard. You see now, it's not hard. English to American, and welcome to your lesson. You must listen carefully, mistakes just come so easily. Watch the way you sometimes talk, the pavement meets the sidewalk. My point could not be finer, cause fanny here means vagina.
Yeah. He also made these little skits where he plays out a video game scenario in real life. All of these were sort of experimental, you might say, but not really mainstays on his channel like Shameful Sequels, though one series definitely made its way to being a true sort of side series for him, that being Infomercialism. This series sees Mike do commentary on various infomercials of the time, which is actually pretty interesting. I've always enjoyed infomercials and found them rather funny or even at times strangely hypnotic with how bizarre they are, so seeing so many of these older ones and even a few that are more exclusive to his region was actually pretty funny. Though once again, I wouldn't say his commentary is anything all too crazy here either, but all these videos are usually like 3 to 5 minutes and pretty tightly edited, so they have a sort of bingeable quality that comes from, I suppose, pure curiosity to some degree.
The cute little guy that eliminates all those problems. Designed to make driving more comfortable. The teddy bear snaps onto your shoulder strap and moves up and down to remove the pressure wherever you need it.
Like your boobs.
My shoulder strap used to pull so tight I could hardly breathe. Now with the teddy bear, I really enjoy traveling again.
I don't think you were in your car at the time. I think you were visiting Mr. Grey.
However, the more I watched them, the more I kind of realized that I'd almost rather just watch the infomercials themselves, because there is so much comedic potential in these things, so many jokes and stuff that can be done with them. I mean, hell, just look at what someone like JonTron did with this concept years later. And Mike just isn't funny most of the time. Well, at least not early on anyway. The series, as it goes on, eventually does start getting a little bit better, I would say, because he actually starts trying out the infomercial items himself, and his commentary gets a bit more interesting with that, and even funny in a few places as well. Plus the novelty of actually seeing someone mess around and try these things out is genuinely very interesting. So even if his stuff, generally speaking, wasn't really my thing as much, again, commentary-wise, he did genuinely get better as he went along, and that is commendable.
And I do want to test it out properly, but I don't have access to a kid, so I guess I'm just going to have to do it myself. So, we have our cereal. This could end really badly, so... God, Jesus. Alright. Benefit of the doubt.
You can share that beauty without the mess. With Perfect Polly, the singing parakeet. Perfect Polly is so lifelike, it's the world's perfect pet. And it never needs feeding.
Because it isn't a pet, although it is as annoying as one. And it wouldn't do that if it was a real bird. Unless it died.
Mike still makes videos to this day fairly frequently, and seems to make a fair bit of content around food, diet challenges, and other random sort of stuff like that. Most of which is pretty chill in nature from what I saw. Seems like he still very much enjoys doing content, though he doesn't really do movie reviews or anything like that these days. Instead, just sort of having fun doing what he's doing, all the same. So I say good for him on that. His movie reviews are probably, like, my least favorite thing he did anyway. Hell, some of his newer videos actually have a pretty chill atmosphere, and generally are not too bad. But that's my overall thoughts on Mike, so who's next? The Distressed Watcher. Now this is one of those I sort of knew was going to be interesting to cover eventually. The Distressed Watcher, real name Thomas James Kirk, or TJ Kirk, is far more well known online, or at least he was back in the day, as The Amazing Atheist. I'm not going to go into detail about The Amazing Atheist, as it's honestly kind of its own rabbit hole of drama and insanity, but the bare minimum basics is TJ was one of the main forerunners in the online atheist movement back in the day, when such a thing was super duper popular. You know, back before all that trolling and criticism they applied towards Christians for years finally got redirected back at them for always wearing fedoras and being pretentious. And then after being criticized like once in their life, they all promptly died. TJ was well known for engaging in debates or takedowns of various Christians online, general morality, the Bible, organized religion, philosophical ideas, and all sorts of stuff basically. All of which gained him a ton of attention back then, and in particular with the edgy teen and young adult crowd of the time. In fact, he was kind of way bigger than ThatGuyWithTheGlasses.com for a bit there, and extremely influential for his time. And then eventually one day it got leaked online that there was videos of him that he made of him shoving a banana up his own ass and pouring a hot oil on his micro dick. And well, he never really recovered from that one. He lost his aura, some might say. All the same though, before all that, but while he was doing the Amazing Atheist stuff, TJ eventually joined up on ThatGuyWithTheGlasses.com around late 2009, with his first series on there being Trailer Failure, which is a show where he discusses trailers and comments about the good and mostly bad points of each of these trailers in the video.
Hello, I am the Distressed Watcher. I review the previews and let you know which trailers are failures. That's right, folks. I watch the coming attractions and tell you which are nothing more than mindless distractions. And when I'm not rhyming, I'm snapping. But I can't snap, which is kind of embarrassing. I don't know why I'm even trying to snap. Anyway, let's get on with the show. Ha! Tough crowd. Trailer is for the film Legion, a story about angels. You know, angels are everywhere in the American zeitgeist. Greeting cards, TV shows, tacky porcelain figurines. So it's only natural that Hollywood would try to capitalize on these majestic figures of modern mythology.
All right, Rambo, you mind telling us what we're fighting?
Angels. Oh. It seems that that's not what they're trying to do. In fact, it seems like this movie is actively trying to piss Americans off. I can get behind that. Let's see the trailer. Ooh, an oversized, sped-up rising sun! Yay! Never seen that before. What's that for? To establish that this is taking place on the planet Earth? Hey, look, there's the sun, bigger than you've ever seen it in your entire life, rising really fast.
The last time God lost faith in man.
Wait a minute, doesn't God already know the future? How can we fail to live up to his expectations when he should know exactly what to expect? Also, if he knows the future, wouldn't he know that he was going to lose his faith in us in the first place? Also, being all-powerful, shouldn't he be able to just make some small tweaks and adjustments here and there within our DNA to make us more to his liking? I mean, I understand that we're supposed to have free will and all that, and we can make our own choices, and we make our own destiny, and blah, blah, blah. We've all seen The Matrix, we all understand about destiny and choice and all that. But at the same time, we have certain genetic predilections that lead us to do certain things. I mean, no guy goes out and cheats on his wife if he doesn't have a sex drive impelling him to do so. So all God would have to do is tweak the nature of the sex drive and voila, there's no more infidelity. That's just one example out of many.
Now, I'm not gonna bury the lead here, guys. TJ Kirk is without a doubt one of the most obnoxiously annoying people to listen to, in my personal opinion. And while some of that comes down to his core philosophies and ideology and other rather gross stuff, I'm more so talking from a pure listening and watching standpoint. TJ Kirk genuinely sounds like one of those really aggressive, like, mega church pastors screaming at you about how you're going to go to hell, which I already kind of find annoying. But then it's about atheism and intellectualizing about a fucking trailer. Like, even just simply talking about a dumb trailer, TJ can't help but self-aggrandize his every word, speaking as though nearly everything he says is a grand truth that others simply are far too stupid to get. Unlike him, the true intellectual genius of the universe. It's just his tone, I suppose, really. Though, I suppose, even in these early videos, if I'm being completely objective, putting aside my own subjectivity here, he does have a very, very strong personality, unlike some of the people that we've discussed today. So, I mean, it's not like I can't see why he was so popular back then, and why ThatGuyWithTheGlasses.com might have been so eager to have him on the site. If you wanted a guy yelling at the camera in a really angry way about pretty much anything, he was pretty good at doing that.
Repeatedly yesterday because you beat them at Monopoly. You see how if you change the definition of the word from one proposition to the other proposition, then the conclusion that you draw makes no sense? Well, it's the same thing happening here with the word believe. The first time we hear the word believe, it means one thing, and the second time we hear it, it means another. And if that's not what's going on here, and they're using the same definition of believe over and over again, then I'm starting to question whether the God of this movie is actually God. Because if he doesn't believe in Dennis Quaid, who very obviously exists, then it doesn't make any sense. He's the creator of Dennis Quaid and the rest of the universe for that matter. So how could he not know about Dennis Quaid? Is Dennis Quaid the Zimzum, the area where God's knowledge can just not penetrate? He is the counterpoint to God's omniscience, and he is the sole point where God cannot see, where God cannot know. That is just stupid. And I'm a bit confused as to why God needs to send angels to kill humanity anyway. Couldn't he just say, snap his finger and make humanity disappear like that? I mean, doesn't he just have to tap his little red slippers together 3 times and say there's nothing like genocide, there's nothing like genocide, there's nothing like genocide, and poof, humanity is gone. That's all he would have to do because he's God. Why does he have to send a big army of angels to wipe us out? It doesn't make any sense. Couldn't he just blow up the earth? I mean, it should be easy for him. And I guess it would be a short and boring movie if we just open with God sitting around in a chair and then he presses a button and then the earth explodes and then the credits roll, but I'd see it.
However, all the same, this trailer show was far from the only thing TJ made on the site. He did everything from top 10 lists to just plain old movie reviews, to even special skit type videos. His top 10 lists are sort of what you might expect. They are very similar in style to Doug's top 11 lists, but with the added bonus of occasionally really, truly quite pretentious takes.
Problem with heroes, if you think about it. You can't just be one. You have to aspire to be one. You have to be virtuous and courageous and all that shit. And it's good that we have heroes. They have a place in our culture, but they honestly don't interest me much. Superman can leap tall buildings in a single bound, shoot lasers from his eyes, and probably knock down buildings with his dick. But you know what? I think he's boring. Truth, justice, the American way? Who talks like that? I've always found anti-heroes way more fascinating. A protagonist who has some of the makings of a hero, but some serious character flaws that run counter to what a hero is expected to be, that's fun, that's compelling. This is a list paying homage to all the good guys with a little bit of bad in them. This is the top 8 anti-heroes from film and television.
He made a ton of these, and something I sort of noticed throughout quite a lot of them is how they all sort of feel like this long extended rant much of the time, which is fine, I suppose. But it does kind of have the effect, without any music or clips or anything to break it up, as being strangely without pause pacing-wise. Beyond them though, he also made videos like Dear George Lucas, where he's talking directly to George Lucas with the express purpose of trying to question if George has any creative integrity as an artist, I guess.
Cookie jars? Sell any Yoda costumes for dogs? You're making a lot of money these days, huh? That Star Wars thing really worked out for you. T-shirts, jerseys, bed sheets, busts, comic books, novels, keychains, action figures, calendars, posters, models, buttons, cardboard cutouts, TV shows, video games, hats, cards, board games, and hey! Wasn't there even a movie at some point? Yeah, I remember that. Was a big hit, as I recall. You are some kind of marketing genius. That whole Star Wars thing is one of the most successful lines of products ever created. Still going strong after 33 years and still with excellent brand recognition. You've made over $10 billion on Star Wars merchandise alone, not including VHS, DVD, or video game sales. That's a lot of money. You're one hell of a businessman. No one could deny that. My question is, do you have any integrity as an artist, or even as an entertainer? You've accrued massive quantities of income. But what is the true worth of your output?
It's strangely bizarre how the video's, presented. Because he's, pretending he's talking to George Lucas. But, obviously he's actually just talking to us and shit. But his core thesis seems to be the fact that George Lucas made Star Wars and then Star Wars made a bunch of money and merchandise means he doesn't have any creative integrity. I've never understood this argument about anything, not even just related to Star Wars, but just in general, with I guess the reason being that it's actually just secretly a argument against capitalism. It's like kind of denoting that if you engage in capitalism, you can't be a true artist with integrity, I guess. Which is interesting coming from a guy who makes money complaining at a camera, or even complimenting other movies that were all probably to some degree made with the express purpose of making money. But whatever. In a change of pace though, TJ also did this one series called Ask Skeletor, in which people could ask Skeletor from He-Man the cartoon, played by him of course, any questions that they desire.
Answers, opinions, solutions, and more. If you have a question, ask.
Dear Fat Skeletor, why are you fat, Skeletor? Alright, folks, you could probably say this one with me. I'm not fat, I'm big-boned. Greetings, blundering buffoons. It is I, the mighty Skeletor, future ruler of Eternia, and then the universe! Dear Skeletor, why in the cartoon you are a dumbass, while in the movie Masters of the Universe you are a badass? The fucking liberal media is in the tank for He-Man! Hanna-Barbera, more like Hanna-Barbaric! They tell lies and deceits of the Skeletor! You wouldn't even believe the shit that I've seen! I've seen some crazy shit going down at that place. That cartoon is 90% lies with a 10% kernel of truth. Lawsuits are pending. Who would win in a fight of Superman versus He-Man? Simple deductive reasoning, my friend.
Yeah, it's somehow even worse to listen to than the normal videos. I think I'd rather fucking flush 10,000 Orbeez down my bathroom toilet and watch my whole fucking life spiral down the shitter with them than listen to any more of that voice.
Skeletor, are you a Republican or a Democrat? I'm for whichever one is gonna destroy things faster!
So you're a Republican?
Yes! The original He-Man cartoon was animated by Filmation, not Hanna-Barbera. Well, thank you! How very informative! The original cartoon was animated by Filmation, not Hanna-Barbera. Fuck off, you loser! Who gives a fuck? That cartoon is all lies anyway! I haven't lost a He-Man.
Anyway, did you know TJ also made a video about all the different covers from the book Lolita that he loves?
Vladimir Nabokov's Lolita is one of the most revered and reviled pieces of literature ever written. It was ranked 4th on Modern Library's 100 Best Novels of the 20th Century, and was a bestseller upon its American release in 1958. It was the second book after Gone with the Wind to sell 100,000 copies within its first 3 weeks of publication. It was adapted for film twice, once by the legendary Stanley Kubrick in 1960. Recently, I stumbled upon a very interesting collection of book covers for Lolita, and was struck by how vastly different the covers were from place to place and decade to decade.
That's kind of random for a video topic, I must say. Did you also know that he made a video called Penetrating Teenage Girls' Brains, where he looks at a magazine made for teenage girls, proceeds to make fun of Justin Bieber, teenage girls, and other such stuff for like 30 minutes, and somehow finds a way to be a pretentious snob about a fucking teen magazine?
It has a distribution of about 4 million magazines per year, and its target demographic is girls from the ages of 9 to 14, and yet its average reader age is 15, so go figure. This magazine is the #1 Justin Bieber authority. Yay, it's Justin Bieber! Justin's Buff Beach Bod. Justin took some much-needed time off during his My World 2.0 promotion tour to soak in the sun at Whale Beach in Sydney, Australia. Besides playing in the waves and tossing around a football, he also dug a hole in the sand with his road manager, Ryan Good. Yes, it is true. Me and @RY Good dug an 11-foot hole at the beach today. Why? Only time will tell. Only time will tell, Justin joked on his Twitter. What a hilarious joke! Only time will tell! Only time will tell what drug you end up addicted to when your career collapses. That is a fucking joke, but not really, because that's gonna happen. What is this? Justin's Buff Beach Bod? Where's the buff? He's a scrawny little bitch. How old is he? 10? 'Cause you don't deserve them. Justin, fun fact. The first song that came on Justin's iPod at his J14 photo shoot was Kid Cudi's Night and Day. Well, who gives a fuck? Justin's fun fact. One of Justin's fave breakfasts is a hearty helping of eggs and pancakes. What? Eggs and pancakes in the same meal? What sort of madness is this? This is insane! Selena, I don't know who the fuck she is. I've made mistakes, but I don't regret anything. Well, if you've made mistakes but you don't regret them, then you're kind of doomed to repeat them now, aren't you, you stupid fucking bitch? That's like, yeah, it was a mistake to kill my entire family in a fit of rage, but I regret nothing!
Did you know he made like 7 of these videos? I could go on, but I think you get the idea by now. He made a ton of content over on this site, and I do remember seeing him somewhat back in the day. The topics for his videos are sometimes interesting, and sometimes truly bizarre and fucking, weird. I'll admit back in the day, I was kind of interested in some of the topics like, I don't know, top 8 like anti-heroes in movies, or top 10 anime badasses and stuff like that. It was kind of a novel thing, especially before they started like getting a dedicated like anime portion of the website. So I do remember watching quite a few of those types of videos of his back in the day. But the thing is, it really feels like no matter what topic he's talking about, it always somehow wraps back around to a few key talking points. First and foremost, especially on his Distressed Watcher account, it's usually how the American public is dumb and evil, and how he's smarter than them, and if they all just were like how he was, then stuff would be better, I guess? He also talks about how Christians are dumb and evil, how morality is dumb and worthless, and so are teenage girls apparently, and everyone is a pretentious, incompetent, and creatively bankrupt boil, except for him, of course, and others of his ilk. Interestingly enough though, he was let go of ThatGuyWithTheGlasses.com in September 2011, so he only kind of lasted on there for about a year and a half before he was let go. I'm not really sure what their reasoning was behind them cutting him off at that point, though, you know, there's some guesses I might have, but maybe it was just a mutual breakup. It didn't seem to go down with any major drama as far as I could tell, so and maybe it was just a basic withdrawal from each other, but who knows. TJ still makes videos to this day on his Amazing Atheist channel, or as it's called now, into the fray, though with considerably less people watching these days, it would seem. I understand I'm not being very objective with this lightning round, but I kind of didn't want to do that with the lightning round. I've been doing that with a lot of the other stuff, whether I liked them or didn't enjoy their stuff as much. With this lightning round, a lot of these things I just kind of want to shoot from the hip and just tell you what I think about them. Get a basic idea of what they do, what type of content they made, and what my opinion is straight up. So if you happen to enjoy TJ Kirk's stuff and you found this whole section rather annoying and this ruined this retrospective for you, you know, sorry not sorry, it's just what I think. I guess you could say I take some issues with aspects of TJ Kirk's videos and content style in a somewhat similar aspects to the ways I take issue with Lindsay Ellis's Nostalgia Chick videos. Though I will say, objectively speaking, that Lindsay Ellis's videos are way better than TJ's in my opinion. So yeah, objectively speaking, his videos are alright. They serve their purpose, and if you like them, fair enough. But subjectively, I can't stand his videos or his pretension, and I think he's missing out on his true calling of eating shit and upgrading bananas to pineapples, if you catch my drift. Okay, it's time to quicken the pace of this stuff now. We've already spent several hours on creators, and we have so many to go. As someone who has spent literal weeks, near months looking at all these creators, I can guarantee you that at some point, shit really starts blending together with the team that got the glasses people. So we're gonna start going even faster. Not to mention that there's some people that were a part of this group, like Obscurus Lupa, who are perhaps best saved for talking about later when we get into the change the channel stuff. Hell, some of the creators might even get talked about as they appear in the Channel Awesome movies later on. So with that being said, it's time to dive deeper, and much faster, into the Channel Awesome Glup Shido lore, starting with Own Citizen. So this dude hosted the show Brows Held High, which was kind of a video essay type show, mixed with a movie review format, not too dissimilar to that of Lindsay Ellis's style at the time. Having watched several episodes of it, it seems actually fairly competently made, and actually highly produced, with lots of skits, jokes, and occasionally interesting commentary, if not just a bit pretentious in tone. I suppose that's on purpose given the title of the show though, but as an example of what I mean, I watched one of his videos where he reviewed a Serbian film, and noted how the movie is a commentary on the government of Serbia, and what have you. And that's why the movie is as messed up as it is. Which is all well and good, and I thought was pretty interesting as a video topic, especially for the time. However, he then has this extended bit where he's pretending to be an American who doesn't understand nor wants to understand foreign films, spouting off how he believes that all of Serbia should be destroyed for making something that made him uncomfortable. And I mean, I get the joke, and I even kind of agree with the message to some degree, I suppose. The understanding where the art you look at comes from can certainly help you understand and feel what they were trying to say with it. It's a decent point, and had it been just a brief little joke, that would have been fine. But then the joke just kind of keeps going on, and on, and on, and on, until it eventually wraps back around on itself to being kind of annoying in its own right.
Everything in your power to wipe Serbia off the map.
Who is this?
I'm a film critic.
I swear I'm firing my secretary as soon as I hang up. Look, I don't know who you are, but I hope you're not calling about that Serbian movie people are complaining about on the internet.
Of course I am! Haven't you seen this horrible, soul-molesting annihilator of innocence and joy that passes itself off as a film?
I haven't. I'm too busy coordinating the military strategies of multiple first world nations.
It's one of the most foul, most vile things ever to be called artistic!
I also watched a video where he compared the people who watch Honey Boo Boo to people who enjoy watching Circus Freaks, because he believes that the enjoyment of both of these things are both based in othering others, an inherent human trait in enjoying suffering of others, or looking at something and saying, thank God that's not me.
These rednecks, these outliers, these scavengers,
overbreeders and leeches. To the left, they cling to their guns and their religion. To the right, they are the 47%. Moochers, ignoramus, yet undeniably human. The perverse spectacle of seeing continues. Step right up, come one, come all. We have captured the noble savage. Pity the poor creatures. These the most remarkable beings ever to draw breath.
That's the kind of stuff that he was making. So, I guess make of that what you will. Sad Panda. So, this is the dude who made Phaelus' theme song, and was kind of the music guy in general on the site, with him actually making several theme songs or tribute songs to several of the creators on the website. My favorites of which being the one made for Brad Jones, or the Cinema Snob.
Hey, Cinema Snob!
Guilty as charged.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce to you the Cinema Snob.
Given the illegitimacy of both Troll 3s, there's not exactly a real Troll 3 that I can stick with. So I will stick with none of the Troll 3s, and if I want short people on film, then I will stick with the miniature subtleties of Terror of Tiny Town. Thank you very much.
Run, Cinema Snob. Run, Cinema Snob. Run, Cinema Snob. Climb the busy garden, thank you very much.
As well as Spoonie.
Forgive them for all the sins. Because someday they made a lottery. But like Christopher Walken, I'm so bad as FMVs are all that bad. When science tried to hold it back, when everything around it collapsed, it's still coming back. All now scream with the help of the precious Am I still in your spot? Yes, sir. I heard that Curtis jackass gotta get lost to grenade. I didn't notice. How can you play so many shitty games when you pass out he's still on the drive? My movie director was probably on crack. Spoonie is the only end going back. Spoonie experiment. Spoonie experiment. Spoonie experiment.
Ah, yes. Wonderful, wonderful good times. Oh yeah, and I think he made a song for someone else on the site. Who was that again?
that I don't know how to play this game, and I hate the neuro. I don't even speak Japanese. Is there anyone that can help me, please? But I found the best FAQ in the world. It's called Juwire, as you heard. Without it make no sense. I keep on dying. Or is it what I should do? Please explain it. You think that you can play this? Now you can. You think that you can play this? Let's hear what he says. I know that you can play this, but only if you follow Juwire.
Welshie. So this dude reviewed horror movies back in the day, stuff like the Scream franchise.
You know, I've been thinking, and it's very tricky to write your first intro for your first review, which this is for me. It's my first major review. Say major, makes me sound really big-headed. But some people open with a joke, some people open with a catchphrase, and some people open with a theme song and music video. Me, I've kind of gone for all three. Well, except the joke. Hi, I'm Welshie, from Wales. Not Sad Panda from France, which some people seem to get confused by. Scream is one of those movies, like Halloween, that I can vividly remember watching for the first time. It was 1997, I was 16 years old, my parents and my brother were away for the weekend, and I had the house to myself. And through sheer luck, my parents had been to the video store the previous night and they'd rented Scream, on VHS no less. Ooh, that's taking me back. So I put it in. I was home alone, was 16, and there was a film with an 18 certificate lying in wait for me to put it in. Any of you would have done the same thing. And I'll be honest, the film scared the hell out of me. Looking back though, it's amazing to think how much Scream changed the horror landscape for its time. Before Scream, the norm was for the Superman killer, or the stalker zombie. Scream pretty much reinvigorated the slasher genre and the whodunit, and it also moved away from the zombie killer. And it brought back the costume killer.
Or Killjoy the Clown.
Watch my review of Killjoy, you'll know I managed to bitch and moan about nearly everything in that film, from the sets, the score, the direction and performance. The plot was nonsensical, the acting wooden at best, and the script, I still refuse to believe that someone was actually paid to write it. Now, given that the film barely clocked in at the hour mark, it's a testament to how bad it was that it managed to leave such an impression. It also leaves me completely baffled as to how that film could end up getting a sequel, and after watching this, I kind of have a theory on that. Killjoy 2, released 2 years after the original, and from a casual viewpoint, manages to seemingly fix nearly everything I complained about in Killjoy. The minute-long title sequence? Gone. Alternate warehouse dimension? Gone. Bad speech due to big teeth? Gone. Bad hip-hop playing over every scene? Gone. But somehow, the film is even worse. Killjoy, as bad as it was, managed to slip into the crack of being so bad it was funny. This one? Oh no. No, 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 no. Now, I'm gonna show the film right now, but no. No.
And I overall quite liked his reviews. They were pretty informative and entertaining for what they are, and in particular, I really do enjoy his Scream trilogy retrospective. I think he was one of the first ones to do a major deep dive into it at the time, and as a huge fan of slasher movies and what have you, I overall enjoyed my time watching his channel. Yeah, overall, not too bad. Oh, and also, Welshie was responsible for running the official ThatGuyWithTheGlasses.com YouTube channel, known as Nostalgia AVGN Fan, in case you're wondering. Count Jacula. Okay, so this dude also reviews horror movies and exploitation cinema, but with like makeup on and stuff. I'll be real, I was watching one of his oldest videos, his top 13 gooder movies, which are basically movies that are really bad or cheesy or whatever, but are really fun or interesting in some kind of way to him. And this video is overall pretty well made, nicely structured, and even funny in quite a few places, mostly because of the clips from these movies that he's talking about. But still, he does add some pretty good commentary. But then we have the ending of this video, where he talks about his favorite movie on the list, and then proceeds to do a gag where he whips out his and boxes all over himself, spewing blood all over the place.
Gorgasm.
And I'll just be real, that came so completely out of nowhere, I was a little bit shell-shocked by the whole thing. It's just so weird, so fucking disgusting, that I kinda checked out mentally at that point. I gotta be real, dog. So, going from that and then looking at his newer videos, definitely I had a bit of a bias, you might say. A bit of a cloud hanging over my head as I watched several of his other videos. But trying to be objective, looking at his newer videos, it seems that the dude is what we call an actual, unironic Satanist, with him making several videos basically describing why he is a Satanist, what it means to be a Satanist, and as far as I could tell, he still occasionally reviews movies, like horror movies, but it's kind of not a review show anymore. It's more of a podcast, kind of loose, unscripted type of thing. And again, it's a lot of Satanist stuff.
Why Satanism? Quite honestly, because when you look at the world around you, I think you will agree that Satanism really is the only sane response. Before I continue, I would like to make something very, very clear. The devil and his followers have always followed a very liberal agenda. You know, we believe in equality and feminism and the gay rights, you know, and we even advocate for transgender acceptance, you know. We do not discriminate between sexual orientation, race, or creed. You are all damned, by the way. And I am certainly a liberal myself, you know, and I want to make that very clear, you know, because it would be very easy for my fellow liberals to close their ears and assume that I have become some sort of conservative Christian with the things I am going to say. But I want to remind you, I am a fucking Satanist, you know. Kinda got a beef with conservative Christianity or Christianity of any type, to be totally honest, you know, which is why we keep fucking with them. The Donald Trump candidacy was a satanic joke that got way out of hand. You know, sorry about that, you know. We are not 100% perfect, you know. Just 100% sexy.
Hey everybody, it's your old pal Count Jacula from Planet Dracula again. Tonight, talking about a movie called Spiral. Greetings, fellow heathens. It is I,
Count Jacula.
And this is the start of a very special video. So let's start by answering a question I've gotten more than a few times. Are you really a Satanist? Well, the short answer is yes. I'm a member of the Satanic Temple, which, along with the slightly more infamous Church of Satan, is one of the two major branches of American Satanism. And yes, there are actually two major branches. Satanism is like any other religious club. It has disagreements, rivalries, and schisms. And the largest division is between the Church of Satan, which was created by Anton LaVey back in the 60s, and the Satanic Temple, which was created in 2012. Which is a very old and venerable organization that was certainly not a satirical protest by a Harvard neuroscience student that got way out of hand. In many ways, the Satan of the Bible is basically an angry YouTube atheist, questioning all ideologies and forcing them to confront their own inconsistencies and hypocrisy.
And look, I guess he's doing his thing and he's still creating stuff to this day, so a good on him for that. But as far as his newer content and the whole Satanism stuff goes, it's just not for me. I can't take anyone who says they're worshipper of evil deity thing very seriously. It just kind of feels like a big LARP, you know what I mean? It's just a little too clingy. for my tastes. But oh well, what you gonna do? Vangelius, or maybe it's Vangelius? Not sure. Either way though, this dude did action figure reviews back in the day, and is actually probably one of the oldest of that genre video, come to think of it, with him mostly reviewing mecha figures, Transformers, and tokusatsu action figures, Kamen Rider, all that sort of good stuff.
This is internet personality Vangelis with a review of Minami Kotaro Reborn, the child of the sun, Kamen Rider Black RX, as he appears in SH Figuarts. You may also recognize this suit as the design of Haim Saban's Masked Rider, the unfortunately failed attempt to bring Kamen Rider to the shores of America in the same way that Super Sentai was brought to the shores of America.
And yeah, overall, decent content. If you're interested in that genre of action figure that he covers, he still does it to this day. SF Debris, or Science Fiction Debris. This dude reviews science fiction shows, doing deep character analysis and what have you, covering stuff like The Twilight Zone and Star Trek.
The Obsolete Man hits us right away with this huge, stark room, oversized table, lectern, everything big, with people in groups at attention, all of which is to convey only one thought. You are small and very alone. Sorling steps in to tell us this is a future built on the totalitarian states of the past.
But like every one of the superstates that preceded it, it has one iron rule. Logic is an enemy and truth is a menace.
Ah, social media then. Wordsworth, played by Burgess Meredith, appropriate since this character is basically a more serious version of Henry Bemis from Time Enough at Last. The man in charge explains that after investigation, Wordsworth is here because he's charged with being obsolete. Wordsworth shocks them with the claim that his occupation is librarian.
A librarian.
He still makes these to this day, actually, and is, interestingly enough, one of the only ones I saw who still has his old website up these days. Because, in case you didn't know, I didn't really feel the need to note this every single time, but most of these creators, in addition to having a YouTube channel, in addition to being on thatguytheglasses.com, would usually also have a website, where they would also post their stuff, or at least have their videos sourced over from a Blip TV or thatguytheglasses.com showcase there. And so yeah, Science Fiction Debris still has his website. As for the videos themselves, I overall actually really enjoy the videos that I watched of his. They were very informative, interesting, and pretty to the point, all of them being around at 10 to 15 minutes long. But they're a very dense 10 to 15 minutes long, with a lot of his analysis of Twilight Zone episodes genuinely being absolutely great stuff. My only real criticism of them is that the editing in his videos can be pretty bare minimum at times, and is lacking any music or really any style beyond the bare minimum really. So it can be a bit dry.
Great deal of it was spent manipulating Sisko. In fact, it's probable that Garrick heard what Sisko was hoping to achieve and immediately discarded the plan as being impractical. Sisko was thinking with the nobility of the Federation. Find the truth and bring it into the light, and the Romulans will do the right thing. And sometimes that kind of thing could work.
But overall, I still found his stuff pretty good and would highly recommend them. Hod in the Shadows. Okay, so this guy is pretty popular. He's a music reviewer, specifically one where his whole shtick is being this dude cast in shadows with a hoodie on, who talks about and reviews modern music. Well, mostly pop songs and not a whole lot of anything else, but yeah, you get the idea. Looking at his first video to one of his most recent ones, the top 10 worst songs of 2025, shows that he is, if nothing else, been pretty consistent over the years. You know, there's a lot more choice when it comes to music review, analysis, and documentary type channels now. Back in the day, it was pretty much a complete rarity. I mean, hell, music reviews in general are still kind of difficult to pull off on YouTube, of how stringent the copyright system is even to this day over it. And so Tall in the Shadows being one of the very first of his kind is definitely something that you cannot take away from him. But that being said, what I did not expect going into this, looking at this channel, as someone who had only seen his videos on occasion years and years ago, I probably saw like maybe one or two of his top 10 worst songs of the year type videos. What I didn't expect was how genuinely fucking nuts some of his most recent videos have been. Okay, hear me out. So when I go into the top 10 worst songs of 2025, I'm expecting some analysis, some reviews, or something on what he thinks are the worst songs of the year, right? I'd expect him to break down the lyrics, and maybe the instrumentation, perhaps talk about it being a derivative of a different song, or being technically or artistically a little strange. But most of all, I would probably expect him to be ranting about the music, and from various different artists. That's kind of what I was expecting. So it wasn't really super high expectations, but you know, it was the same I'm sure anyone would have going into a top 10 worst of really anything. Well, what I got instead was a dude for almost 50 minutes talking about how much he hates Taylor Swift, talking about gossip about her, and analyzing the lyrics of her songs not from any artistic or technical element, but instead entirely criticizing them based on her persona, or her feelings, or personal life, or random drama or rumors about her, or what he perceives to be her mindset creating these. And like, yeah, other songs were on the list, but basically like over half of this list consists of Taylor Swift songs, and almost all of his honorable mentions are also Taylor Swift songs. And look, I don't really listen to very much modern pop music. It's usually just not to my taste, except for the occasional song here or there. And I definitely don't know about like any of this drama and stuff going on with a modern pop people either. Actor, musician, celebrity drama is just not generally my wheelhouse for shit that I care about. So maybe I'm just in the dark here, but holy shit, from an outside perspective, this video came off as genuinely unhinged. He does at one point even acknowledge that he probably has Taylor Swift derangement syndrome at this point. But again, understand that I came into this video, this 50-minute video, expecting multiple songs and different artists. And so the whole thing felt extremely bizarre to me. Like it almost came off as if it were a joke, like an April Fool's joke, but it's not.
Taylor. Even if Taylor Swift had not become Lana Del Rey's biggest celebrity fan, friend, and collaborator, her influence on Taylor's music would still be extremely obvious. And in my opinion, it's for the worse. Like, I'm not convinced that trying to be Lana Del Rey is something even Lana Del Rey should be doing, but I am very certain that Taylor should not be doing it. Lana's whole deal, her layered artifice, her arch-ironic detachment, it just does not wear well on Taylor Swift, the woman who feels fucking everything. Like, that's just not ever been Taylor's appeal. What I want from her is just her direct, honest emotions. Or do I? Swifties have noticed that Taylor usually reserves track 5 on her albums for the most raw and emotional song on the record, a tradition that continues with her latest track 5, Eldest Daughter, which, to be fair, you can't call it guarded or dishonest. I am quite sure that internet comments are the biggest and most serious problem in her otherwise charmed life, and they just absolutely wreck her. And you know what? Same. I get it. I do. So, you know, I appreciate the authenticity, but I think we have to take this as proof that this is not a topic worth being authentic about. Is this just not an insane way to start a song? Look, there's never been a good song about the internet. There probably won't ever be a good song about the internet. And even though I know what it's like, hearing Taylor complain about it just makes me roll my eyes like Tyler, the Creator. And if there is a way to make a song about it, it's certainly not by delivering the lines as po-faced and seriously as she does here. I swear to God, we need to make Taylor start a notebook of words she's not allowed to use. But Taylor showing that she's like easily wounded and too online, that's not a revelation. That's who she's been her entire career. Apologies to the dozen or so Swifties who heard Shake It Off and were like, wow, Taylor doesn't get bothered by anything, but the rest of us knew. And the sad part is that you can still see the Taylor Swift formula in there, and you can see why it works and why there should be some kind of emotional catharsis at the end, but she just botched it completely. Okay, well, that's enough talking about Taylor Swift. Now for some honorable mentions. Supposed to be one of the highlights of the album. I almost put this on the main list too, honestly. I didn't really have words for it in the review I already did, but like, put it down. Add Sabrina Carpenter to the list of artists that Taylor shouldn't try to be. Everyone wants all this stuff, but I just want you.
I just want you.
From Taylor Swift, literally the greediest artist alive. I'm gonna puke. Some more astonishing clunkers from Taylor Swift. Like, rewriting every lyric with $10 words is not good songwriting. Just, someone take away her thesaurus. Fun fact, that's her favorite line on the album. I realize that I have complete and total Taylor Swift derangement syndrome at this point, but it's called canceled. It's literally called canceled.
Like, damn, bro. Did Taylor Swift run over your dog and then mail its dead body back to you? I mean, am I alone in feeling like this is a little detached from reality? However, even when he did talk about other musicians, it seemed strictly centered on just drama surrounding them, or him not liking their politics, or at one point with the #1 entry on the list, being angry at the mere concept of Christian music.
Worldview to like it. But the charts this year have seen a shocking invasion of Christianity on a level not seen since the Crusades, which has forced me to reflect and admit that I will probably never feel these songs myself, because I personally have no relationship with God. Nothing against the guy, it's just, I don't know him. So any song about praising God just strikes me as a giant waste of time. Do you think God ever gets embarrassed by his fans? But for all its modern affectations, mostly this sucks in the way that all Christian music sucks. Empty-headed, it communicates nothing, it exists to kill your thoughts.
So, obviously, this was a very, very bad impression. But I decided, because I was now rather intrigued, to watch several of his other videos on his channel. I watched quite a few of his top 10 best and worst of the year music lists, and even a few of his individual reviews of songs. And I just have to be completely honest with you. I came away after watching like 5 hours worth of his content feeling like I had learned kind of nothing of real substance. I mean, if his channel is mostly about pop idol related tea, drama, and rants about current day politics and stuff, fair enough. You do you, I guess. But I genuinely was interested in analysis, even if it's in a completely comedic fashion, of, I don't know, music? Not this drama of the week slop. Maybe my standards are slightly higher with this, as I've watched several channels from musical composers or people who have been playing and producing music their whole life, actually analyzing music, reviewing it, and going into deep detail as to why it works or, in some cases, doesn't work. And while I wasn't expecting that level of detail in any of these videos, especially the older ones, I guess I just assumed that over the years, like, near 20 years, that he would have gotten deeper into that rabbit hole of musical analysis, not farther away. So yeah, not really a fan of what I've watched of him. Maybe it's just not for me. Maybe I'm just not the target audience. I don't really care if Taylor Swift took a smelly ass shit last Tuesday after tweeting about being a girl boss or some shit, I guess. And again, I suppose musical analysis is just much more difficult than film or game stuff. I think it honestly does require some musical knowledge to be actually engaging or interesting to me personally. Which, to his credit, Todd does seem to have some musical talent or knowledge under his belt, since he knows how to play the piano, and I don't know, maybe he can play some other stuff, I'm not really 100% sure. I wouldn't know, because he chooses to, not talk about any of that, or use any of that musical knowledge for any of his videos about music. Real shame. Rap Critic. By contrast, then, we have the Rap Critic, whose content is genuinely quite good. Now, again, I'm not super into rap music personally, but you know what? The Rap Critic's reviews and top 10 lists of, like, crazy or dumb lyrics from rap music was actually pretty interesting and informative, with him actually talking about the rhythm and what makes a good rap song flow well, versus lyrics or parts of a song that break that rhythm. He notes how some songs can be very good, but just have a couple verses or a couple parts that just don't flow as well. Rather than the entire song being bad, he gets into the particulars of certain pieces being bad, or certain pieces being particularly good. He also seems genuinely passionate about rap music, almost infectiously so, with his enthusiasm and overall knowledge of the various genres, musical artists, and I guess just the overall craft of making rap music really shining through. So yeah, overall, pretty good stuff. Rantasmo. So this dude's main show was called Needs More Gay, where he basically talks about different things that he thinks needs more gay, from horror films.
Horror and sexuality have sort of a symbiotic relationship. No slasher movie would be complete without some sort of pointless nudity and/or premarital sex. And although this tends to be rather heterocentric, all things considered, horror is a remarkably queer genre. In the early days of horror, movies often had a gay undertone. Bride of Frankenstein had an out director and several gay cast members, and it's notorious for its gay subtext. There's palpable sexual tension between the film's two mad scientists, and the monster himself isn't quite so interested in the bride so much as this blind silver daddy.
To video games.
Although the culture and image of video games and the people who play them have evolved a lot over the years, they still have certain stigmas attached to them. The word gamer still tends to evoke images of young, white, male, straight people, when in fact gamers are a pretty diverse community. And a pretty solid cross-section of this community is the gay gamer, or if you're pressed for time, gamer. Not only are gay gamers a pretty sizable demographic, they're also a fairly untapped market. When you look at gay representation in video game history as a whole, it's been pretty sparse. There was Ring King, of course, the NES boxing game where shirtless men slow dance with each other, and then this happens. And I'm pretty much obligated to at least mention the Japanese Choiniki series, where, yeah, so that happened. Generally, the industry is pretty much dominated by heterosexual men, and most video games have tended to reflect that. And any sort of sexual content, gay content in particular, has often been met with controversy and censorship.
And all that sort of stuff. And you know what? I think he just might have gotten his wish granted somewhere along the way. That Jewish guy. I mean, like, do we even have to say anything more? He's that Jewish guy. He's a Jewish guy who reviews stuff on the site, or did for a short while anyway, from the perspective of a Jewish guy. Mind you, it did seem like a lot of this guy's content is completely gone, and I was only really able to find a few videos of his. But I suppose for what they were decent enough, I suppose.
Shalom, I'm that Jewish guy. I always thought this part was kind of funny. Here's why. The words that Harold is chanting are from the first paragraph of the Shema, which is traditionally said at least once a day and not on a special occasion like this, and he's only saying the first sentence of it.
Alright, so there might be a few other Team That Guy with the Glasses people that we may cover in future videos. But for now, I think this is a good enough cross-section for you to at least get the point and understand some of the culture and different creatives that were a part of undoubtedly the biggest part of ThatGuyWithTheGlasses.com as far as these categories go. But with that said, what about the other two divisions on the site, Blister Thumbs and Inked Reality? As noted by the wiki, Quote, Blister Thumbs was a subdivision of Channel Awesome, where video games were the main topic of discussion. Since the start of ThatGuyWithTheGlasses.com, the section grew into its own subsection on the site, and on June 5th of 2009, it was announced that the Blister Thumbs group was going to branch from the main site, unquote. That is to say that even though they were kind of part of the ThatGuyWithTheGlasses.com site, they eventually got so many creators on there that they also ended up making their own website, specifically for them. Since, I mean, they were the video game part of the site, and that was always gonna be one of, if not the most successful part of it, even back then. I distinctly remember Blister Thumbs also having articles and other such things that were kind of common on video game journalism type websites.
Oi, Dominic here. A lot of times at the beginning and end of some of these video game videos, you see a lot of these logos that say Blister Thumbs. And you might be wondering, well, what is Blister Thumbs? Well, ever since the very beginning of ThatGuyWithTheGlasses.com, Channel Awesome has been looking to expand out what it has. We were always looking to create new channels and new websites for many of our viewers. Well, I'm happy to say that one of them is on the way, and that's Blister Thumbs. The main focus, as you may have guessed, is going to be video games. There's going to be interviews, previews, new games, retro games, podcasts, articles, and a lot of your favourite people from here will be there too, like Angry Joe, Jew Wario, Bennett, and of course yours truly. There's also going to be contests, there's going to be tournaments, and on top of that, we're going to be looking for video game journalists and article writers, so keep an eye out for that. Now this is the first of many sites that we're looking to open up, so go ahead, show your support, and we're going to get more coming to you. So keep an eye out, gents, it's coming soon. Where's my chick?
Meanwhile, on the Inked Reality part of things, according to the wiki, quote, Inked Reality focused on things originating from and or relating to inked published material, ranging from American comics to anime, unquote. They were the smallest division of the site, but also home to the likes of Linkara, for example. Well, on the Blister Thumb side of things, there's actually quite a few creators that came from this division of the website that went on to be extremely popular and influential in their own right, especially when it comes to YouTube. Like, for example, did you know that the Peanut Butter Gamer started out here? Did you also know that the one and only JonTron was also originally on Blister Thumbs as well? I guess this was before the whole Normal Boots thing. I wonder if I should do a retrospective on Normal Boots. What about Hidden Block? Anyone remember Hidden Block? Well, anyway, past those two, who maybe are worth looking into in their own retrospectives on Normal Boots or whatever in the future, another one of the creators that I have actually mentioned on the channel before that was also part of this division was Little Miss Gamer. I actually talked about her in much more detail in my Captain S retrospective. So if you want to know more about her show as well as Captain S, which if you don't want to hear about Captain S, then you're a fucking bitch. So be sure to go check that video out. Another one of the creators who was on here who is kind of in everything that I seem to cover is none other than Guru Larry. In particular, his show Games That Yanks Can't Wank, I remember watching a couple episodes of back in the day, which seemed to primarily cover games that came out in the PAL region, but not over here in the United States and Canada.
Sometimes it can be shitty when there's a game you really want. You wait a really long time, it takes bloody years to come. But what about those games that you just don't get to play? That were not released in the US, but places like the UK. It's that yanks can't wank because they're not released. There is that yanks can't wank, but they're generally not great. Would you like to be my friend? Well, I don't have many friends, but what does this have to do with this song? It's games that yanks can't wank.
A amongst various other internet video game related shows. Spoonie, of course, also found himself amongst this division too, and interestingly enough, so did Ashens, also known as the British guy who shows you cool and weird stuff on his couch cushion. I had a bit of difficulty finding the content that he actually uploaded over here though, and maybe there's an archive of it somewhere, but it seemed to be a little bit more game oriented. Not that this was something that was outside of his wheelhouse, I suppose, but it definitely was quite a bit different from what I could gather from his typical stuff that he uploaded on his YouTube channel. YouTuber Lordcat, also known as that one weirdo who cried about Spoonie ruining his life, who is known for exactly that and nothing else beyond that, was also featured in this part of the website. Bro must really hate God for that kind of curse that's been put upon their name at this point. Not that it's not deserved, I'd say, they really did it to themselves. Oh, and Review Tech USA, I guess, was also fully on here at one point too. So lots of very popular, influential creators were on here at one point, as well as a few that have definitely been kind of tossed away as little relics of their time. All that to be said though, there are a few in particular who probably demand a bit more attention than what I'm currently giving to these ones, such as Angry Joe. Now, Angry Joe is someone who could have gotten his own video entirely. He has such a massive catalog of videos, connections to the That Guy with the Glasses lore, and even some controversies later on in his career. But the main reason I decided that it was best to not do a whole video on him is because for me, what you see is really what you get with him. He's an angry game reviewer who reviews modern games instead of old ones. And he's been pretty dang successful with it, and hell, unironically is probably one of the most successful members, or ex-members, of all the Channel Awesome people, from sheer numbers of his YouTube channel alone. He goes on rants, he does skits with himself all dressed up in cosplay quite often, and usually just sort of unleashes his unadulterated opinion.
You done fucked it up. You done fucked it up. You done fucked it up. You done fucked it up again, didn't you? You done fucked it up again. You done fucked it up!
But truth be told, I have to be honest with you. I never really watched a ton of Angry Joe back in the day. I mean, don't get me wrong, I watched some of his videos, of course. But for as popular as he is, I often feel as though he's one of the most glaring blind spots for me as far as the Channel Awesome creators go. And so I did take the time to watch some of his most old, most popular, and then most recent reviews and rants. And really, I found his content to be pretty consistent. He does the anger ranting and raving about modern games really well, and hell, there was even a few times I actually got a chuckle or two out of them. In particular with his Destiny review, where he basically outlined why that game is so bad and not worth your time, only to then say how he can't stop playing that game, and how even though he hates it, he still loves it. Man, what the hell does that game do to people? I feel like every Destiny 1 or 2 fan I've ever known has that exact same sentiment. They fucking hate the game but still love it. So that was kind of humorous to see through a game review format.
We're introduced to this universe, have been cut out, and will be sold to us later in pieces by order of Activision.
What? Objection! What baseless accusations, Angry Joe? You have no proof! Where is your proof? Pay no attention to this charlatan! And on that note, please buy the Destiny Expansion Pass now! Only $29.99, $39.99, ah, fuck it, whatever it is, buy it.
LC, if this is not a slap in the face to Bungie fans, I don't know what is. Hey, you remember this girl?
Well fought.
You're here.
Who the fuck are you? You'd think you'd at least earn better loot at the end of them, but you don't. Again, it's a random number generator with spinny things at the end of a mission. It's like a fucking Vegas. I'm a wife and I'm getting beaten and battered and I keep going back to Destiny and I don't want to go back, but I can't. I need to go back. I want to see if I can get one of the exotics, man. Let me have an exotic. Give me one moment.
Yes, that's right, Joe. Tears of despair. Oh, yes, your tears taste so good, Joe. My plan actually worked flawlessly. I've got to do this for more video games.
I'm sorry, guys. I knew I'd fly into an angry rant in the middle of the review. You guys must think I fucking hate Destiny, but the truth is, I don't hate Destiny. I just think that there are so many design decisions that are wrong, that are disappointing, that are...
But nonetheless, I can definitely feel the passion in his videos. His emotions, be it anger, disappointment, or excitement, all seem very genuine. And in a weird way, because he's an angry dude yelling or praising new games as they come out, I sort of came to the realization as to why I believe he's still so popular to this day, and why his videos and channel seem to just kind of exponentially grow as time went on. Angry Joe is kind of the average Joe. Well, what I mean by that is his opinions feel very aligned with the common man who plays Vidya. There's no pretension. It's all just raw emotions and honest thoughts. Even if those thoughts at times are even contradictory, at times illogical, or too based on hype, etc. Even if the points he's making are not the most eloquently laid out, you still sort of feel what he means by all of them, whether you agree or disagree with what he has saying, you know? Which I found pretty interesting, especially when I found out that he has some controversies in the past, and even a few in the present, I suppose. Enough to get a full-on Gamer from Mars video, even. Now, what, pray tell, are those controversies? Well, from what I was able to gather, sometimes Angry Joe really likes or hypes up shit that other people hate or know is going to be shit. And, yeah, that's pretty much it. Maybe I'm missing something, but basically from what I gathered, Joe has the unfortunate habit of hyping up something that looks like total dog shit, as famously seen in the Spoony Betrayal video.
Betrayal! What? Betrayal! Betrayed me! This game sucks!
And then kind of having to cope and even eventually eat crow when said thing that looked like crap comes out and turns out to, in fact, be crap, like everyone assumed or was able to see ahead of time. This has led some people to wonder if he is a shill for all these companies and games, since he seems to not be on the same page with everyone else when it comes to certain stuff, while others, I guess, just have grown frustrated with him being too optimistic about things, only to then be supremely disappointed because I guess he wasn't able to see the writing on the wall, which kind of makes other people question his opinions and viewpoints and what have you. Though I would personally argue that this has always been the case with Angry Joe, and again, for me, what you see is what you get. It's his honest opinions, whether you like them or dislike them. So I personally do not attribute any malice or corporate shilling to what is probably ultimately Angry Joe just too easily being able to be bought into the hype. Hell, there's several videos where he famously has gone to watch a movie and really liked it upon his first viewing, and then everyone else seemed to genuinely dislike it, and then he goes and watches it again only to make a second video where he discusses why he now sees the flaws, and that now that the hype has died down, he genuinely doesn't like it, etc, etc. It's just kind of the Angry Joe cycle from what I was able to gather. There's also just some of these things where it's just general hot takes that divides people's opinions generally speaking. Like if Star Wars The Last Jedi was good or not, or if Man of Steel was good or not, blah blah blah, you get the idea. But to be frank, in this world of every other day, some new content creator gets exposed for grooming minors or being a sexual deviant or scamming their fans or whatever else, maybe a wombo combo of all those things plus more. Angry Joe having bad movie or video game opinions is no great crime in my book. Again, there could be more I'm missing, but from what I gather, Joe has pretty much just been doing his thing online for nearly 20 years now. Love him or hate him, and I do respect that overall.
Hey Joe, you wanna play a zombie game?
Jesus Christ, how many fucking zombie games you buying, Joe?
Next on our docket would be Benzaii. Now sadly, a lot of this dude's stuff has been kind of lost, it would seem. Especially now that he has since moved on from not only Channel Awesome, but English-speaking content in general, as he now does stuff exclusively in French, which is his native language. However, back when he was doing stuff for Channel Awesome, I'd say his major personality was that of being the weird hypersexual Frenchman. It was a unique personality for the site, I'll give him that, and he had shows like Games You Might Don't Know, which was basically a show where he would show off some sort of obscure game for you.
Whoa! Hello boys and girls, and welcome to a brand new Games You Might Don't Know show. Right now, you're all wondering, well, is Benzaii gay? Well, let me take you back to an era where being half naked under a leather jacket was badass!
It's dark, it's violent, it's for adult, and it's manly! You understand? Manly! Master System, also known as the Sega Mark III in Japan. This game is fan service to the max, but also one of the best games of this genre. You know this kind of beat 'em all when you can just go forward? Kinda like Kung Fu or Vigilante? But wait! If you don't know these games, you can drink this glass of my piss.
Or FAQU, or Fuck You, which was a show where he kind of gives out tips for more modern games, usually in a pretty comedic manner.
Bonsoir, mes petites cailles, and welcome to Fuck You. I see you've come back to me, haven't you? Hoping that I would fuck you like a cheerleader at the prom, right? Well, of course I will. After all, it's been a long time, and if I don't fuck you right away, my knowledge might explode. So today, Benzaii fucks you on Modern Warfare 2. Tips number 1. Alright guys, shields are nightmare. Total nightmare. When someone got a shield, you can't help just shooting it randomly, hoping the dude might die from a headache or something, I don't know. It's useless. Let me first show you how to get rid of these motherfucking noobs using shields. If the guy's a total newbie, he will be standing while holding the shield. 2 words. Relax. Just prone before the guy, aim carefully, and shoot him in the feet. And that will be the end of your troubles. Well now, if the guy is ducking so actually his feet are protected, well it's time to fuck you a little harder. By the way, my weapon of choice when it comes to close combat is the dual-wielding G18. This is just brutal. So okay, one guy arrives with his shield. Keep in mind, he won't kill you in one hit. The shield is weaker than a knife. With that in mind, just rush towards him, jump on his side, and turn around while jumping while flaming the poor guy.
A lot of these are basically impossible to find though, at least from my own searching, with many of them all being kind of scattered in individual pieces on the Internet Archive, and a re-upload here and there on YouTube. However, I'd be lying if I said any of that stuff was what I mainly knew him for. Nah, instead what I knew Benzaii for on the site was for his show GameFAP. A show where he plays a character named Master Bait and reviews hentai games.
It's time for your master, your host here, Bait, to tell you all about one of the finest interactive rape simulator ever made, Rayplay. Oh, Rayplay. Such a lovely game. You play as some guy who just got arrested for touching a girl in a subway train. But it's okay, cause he has money, and decides that this was totally unfair, and that he will have his revenge on this girl by making her entire family his slaves. A real Japanese hero.
In particular, I believe the first, or one of the first videos I saw from him with this was none other than Rape Play. Yes, the rape simulator game, which I do not believe I had ever heard of until this GameFAP show. I also, in particular, remember when he reviewed this game where you can make this custom 3D anime character to, virtually bang. Now, the thing is, obviously this is a character that he's playing, but at the exact same time, in just the few videos of this series that currently exist, that I at least was able to find on the Internet Archive, I felt like there was several moments that just felt like they crossed a certain kind of line into definitely creepy area. Like when he made one of the 3D anime girls, one of the site creators, Mars Girl.
So it won't take you too long before you recreate your favorite internet personalities.
Hi, I'm Mars Girl, and you're watching another anime news editorial.
Like, holy shit. Now, given, I do remember at the time that Mars Girl seemed like she was in on this joke, or at least was chill with it, I guess, but still, damn, even back then, this was pretty shocking to see. I guess that was the intention. Though an even stranger incident that I found in these videos is when he did this video on the top most sexy cosplayers, in which he then proceeds to just show footage of every single female cosplayer at the con that he was attending, all paired to the song I Love Little Girls by Oingo Boingo. I can't show you the audio here for obvious reasons, but considering that some of these women are more than likely teenagers, I don't know, man. Even as a joke, this feels pretty fucking out of line. I suppose no one was hurt here, so I guess it's whatever at the end of the day, but still, this is pretty unhinged to say the least, and I don't believe anyone was really asked in the process of doing this either. Nevertheless though, Benzai was definitely one of the more unique creators on Channel Awesome, and he seems to be doing pretty well these days over on the French side of YouTube. Now, obviously, if we can be real for a minute, I've been building up the Jew Wario for quite a while, and he is indeed part of the Blister Thumbs part of the site. But, for obvious reasons, I think it would be far more prudent to finally talk about him when we discuss the Change the Channel document. So we'll save that for later. But for now, all you really need to know is that he is actually, or was actually, a very popular member of the site, with his signature Wario hat, and whom reviewed video games, and whose existence on the site, how he left, and the legacy he left behind, has in its entirety been some of the most darkest and most depressing aspects of the whole greater Channel Awesome story. But again, we'll go into the nitty-gritty details when the time is right, in a video all its own. Another creator that has since gotten quite a lot of attention even beyond the YouTube scope and into the full-on political scope, is that of Accursed Farms, which is the production company for Ross Scott's shows. In particular, at the time, Freeman's Mind and Ross's Game Dungeon, with Freeman's Mind basically being a machinima in which the show goes through the story of Half-Life, but from the perspective of Gordon Freeman, who is normally a silent, theoretical physicist from the game.
Is provided for the security and convenience.
I'm not the only one who's late.
Sucker! The time is 8:47 a.m.
I didn't know I was that
Current
late.
Topside temperature is 93 degrees.
8:47.
With an estimated high of
I am so
105.
dead.
The Black Mesa compound is maintained at a pleasant 68 degrees at all times.
I need to buy a watch. I'm already on probation with the company. They could fire me.
This train is inbound.
Oh
from
well.
Level 3 dormitories.
What
to
can you do?
Sector C test labs and control facilities. Psst. If your intended destination is a
While Ross's Game Dungeon is a review show where he basically focuses on obscure PC games, of which he finds particularly interesting or worth checking out. And I've actually seen quite a few episodes of Ross's Game Dungeon, and I've overall enjoyed my time watching them, especially because, again, older PC games is something that I didn't really grow up with, but I always find fascinating or rather charming to hear about in more detail. And most recently, Ross has been the one who has spearheaded the movement Stop Killing Games, which in essence is a consumer rights campaign demanding that video game publishers provide end-of-life plans for always online games. It advocates that publishers be legally required to leave games in a playable state, such as through offline access or community servers, when official servers are shut down, essentially making that online game that you bought not a complete paperweight whenever the servers go down. It started off in the EU, but has since moved to various other countries, including the United States. So that's pretty cool to see. Finally, as one more creative duo or team on Blister Thumbs, we have the Game Heroes, who despite being in all of the Channel Awesome movies and specials, are probably some of the least talked about individuals of the entire, I guess, semi-more popular ecosphere of Channel Awesome. The Game Heroes as a show was basically just a review show where they reviewed video games, be they old ones or new ones, as well as making top 5 lists and what have you, with the show overall being hosted by Handsome Tom, who some might be more familiar with having worked for the video game website Screw Attack back in the day, for about 2 years alongside his friend Stuttering Craig, both of whom ran the site together with a variety of other cast members and interns, and eventually having James Rolfe's AVGN series under their belt as well. However, after a series of disagreements and controversies regarding the future of the site that maybe is better talked about in a Screw Attack centric video, the friendship between Handsome Tom and Stuttering Craig ultimately kind of fell apart, and thus Handsome Tom would go on to make his own website and series known as Game Heroes, which then would eventually be picked up by Channel Awesome's Blister Thumbs department whenever they started looking for video game centered content creators.
SimCity. This is one of the staple sims that everyone remembers.
SimCity was one of the toughest games ever. Nowadays you can look up strategies and cheats to help you along, but back in the D, you had to figure that shit out by yourself.
The game starts you out as mayor of a new town. Your choices affect everything that you do. Don't build an airport near residential areas.
There were a few things you could do to help out your progress. For example, bulldoze the coast to prevent flooding.
Create railroads instead of roads to prevent traffic.
And keep those pollution-filled industrial zones away from the residential zones.
This game can be tough with all the hazards turned on.
You mean the Bowser hazard?
Oh yeah. Destroy that shit.
Number 9.
Donkey Kong Country is an amazing game. Almost everyone's played it. It looked great, the music was amazing, secrets were plentiful, and it was hard.
I know some of you have seen the VHS previewing Donkey Kong Country that we did a commentary on. Even with one of the worst previews of a game ever made, it could not hold back the greatness that is DK.
Rare outdid themselves with a superior game, but how many of you have ever beaten it? Not very many of you, I'm sure. If you have, then consider yourself great at level memorization and timing. It was so much fun and challenging, years later they didn't have to change the formula for the new one on the Wii.
You know what made this game hard? It's the amazing level design. Take the mine cars for example. If you were off by just a little, you were boned. Also, the barrel blasting was fun, but instant death was a common theme as you navigate the mammal cannon.
Hands down, it's one of the best hard games, period.
And while there was a few contributors to Game Heroes as a team, the other most significant one, which again was also featured in the various Channel Awesome movies, was 8-Bit Mickey, of whom, might I add, I found particularly difficult to find a lot of info on online. I mean, besides the fact that he exists and was a part of the Game Heroes, any personal information or his background seems to have been kind of obfuscated. It's nowhere on any wikis or general information, and even finding his own original little YouTube channel leads to a channel description which says just the following. Quote, "Who is 8-Bit Mickey? He's the Alpha and the Omega. He's a paradox wrapped in a riddle, wrapped in an enigma lost in time. He's everything, just as he's nothing. He's like fire and ice and rage. He's like the night and the storm in the heart of the sun. He's ancient and forever. He burns at the center of time, and he can see the turn of the universe. And he's wonderful." Unquote. So, in other words, he's some fucking short guy who wears this 8-bit tie and is in the Channel Awesome movies, mostly with the joke being that he's short and the sidekick of Handsome Tom. So I guess we're just gonna leave it at that.
It ain't been Mickey.
Beyond that though, actually watching through a few episodes of the Game Heroes was pretty decent stuff. It actually did kind of remind me of Screw Attack styled content, which if you're at all familiar with that sort of stuff, then you'll probably know what I mean. Though it does seem like the overall team of the Game Heroes has since disbanded overall, with Handsome Tom still uploading stuff occasionally to this day. But with that said, I think you get the idea. That's a pretty good look at Blister Thumbs and some of the more famous people attached to it. But what about Inked Reality? Well, beyond Linkara, who might I add, let me remind you, we are still not technically done with, famously Team 4-Star, the creators of Dragon Ball Z Abridged, Hellsing Abridged, and really a bunch of abridged anime and video game series, were hosted on the site back then. If you know them, you know them. And if you don't, and you want to see their stuff, you can see it all on YouTube. Just please, promise me something, would ya? Would you please watch Hellsing Ultimate as a series before watching the abridged series? I promise you it's worth your time, and it'll stop you from being an annoying fuck, and instead make you based. Trust. There was also that guy in the Suede. So, funnily enough, this guy was kind of the one responsible for bringing anime onto the site, with his initial start, just like Linkara, originally playing a That Guy with the Glasses parody, and then eventually being pulled into the fold. Now sadly, much of his catalog has seemingly been completely lost. And trust me, I really tried looking everywhere I could, because there's a lot of old videos that he made back in the day that I distinctly remember really enjoying or watching back then, but I can't seem to find them. So if anyone knows an archive of all of his stuff, please let me know. God, take a drink every time I say that shit's been lost to the sands of time at this point. Maybe I should say something else. Lost to the winds of change, perhaps. Well, anyway, he did top 10 lists about anime, with a particular memory I have being his top 10 anime intro video, in which he proceeded to gush all about Trigun at some point. And it was actually the place where I was first introduced to that banger of an anime. So I guess I have him to thank for that. He, well, did his job well. He got me to check out a couple cool anime. He also had videos where he highlighted extremely cool AMV videos, which again is very based, and while his actual commentary isn't like anything mind-blowing from the couple of these that I was able to find, it didn't really matter, as I see these videos as more tastemakers, with his series AMV Heaven being just that, a highlight of some cool AMVs, as well as it being a funny reference to AMV Hell.
However, with the advent of broadband internet and DVDs, the nerds have risen to devour the anime of the past and present. So let me ask you a question. What happens when a new generation of anime viewers gain the technology to rip and store an entire season of Dragon Ball Z on their computer, and the same people also happen to have a copy of Linkin Park's Hybrid Theory gathering dust in their closet? The answer? They make a frickin' AMV.
But Mr. Swade, what is an AMV?
I'm very glad you asked that, me. Take it away, boys.
A is for unorthodox. M is for subliminal. B on an
Okay, that explained diddly squat. Here's what it really stands for, guys. Anime, music, video.
Funny thing is, though, I remember I kind of stopped watching him after a while, mostly because, I hate to admit this, I kind of straight up forgot about him at some point, because I believe he went on a 2-year mission for his Church of Mormon. No disrespect or anything, of course, but I sort of forgot about him for some time after that, and haven't really looked at any of his stuff since that point. And now, looking at his stuff now, I'm sad to say that much of the content I personally remember him for is very hard and very scattered around to find. He, of course, still makes content to this very day, though. Much more often on his Patreon now, I notice, after he basically got legally threatened into submission by Nintendo over copyright bullshit once again, since he was doing an in-depth retrospective of every single Pokemon episode, which I went ahead and watched a few of. They seem pretty in-depth and made with some real passion, with genuinely interesting trivia and knowledge behind seemingly every single episode of Pokemon. Though, like almost all Channel Awesome people, they do seem to be also charged full of random political rants whenever the chance ever comes up to any capacity. Maybe others like this, but I gotta say, when I'm watching an episode retrospective of a Pokemon episode, and then we suddenly start talking about the possible racist and sexist implications of 2 different genders of Pokemon fighting, and then eventually tie that into a huge rant about trans representation, am I alone in feeling like we kind of lost the plot just a little bit, and that maybe this stuff isn't meant to be taken that seriously? Like, if that's the sort of stuff you want to talk about and discuss, fair play. It's just in this particular context with a show like Pokemon, it just kind of feels, you know, out of place. It kind of reminds me of the dude who ranted about that Turning Red movie not referencing 9/11. Like, maybe this Pokemon thing is slightly more on topic, but damn dude, calm down a little bit. My jokes aside of general reviewer trappings, I did find most of his content that I was able to find pretty enjoyable overall, with him now simply going by Swade instead of that dude in the Swade. So yeah, Jesu Otaku. Jesu Otaku is another one of those creators that I did watch a little bit back then. In particular, I remember their top 20 anime villains video, which was a favorite of mine back in the day that still holds up pretty well, I'd say.
Fabrizzo is another minority on the list in that he's the only evil child character. From here on out, it's charismatastic grown men. But everyone knows evil children are an important part of any good villain league. It was just hard to find one for this list because they're usually too cute to be bad A and are almost always never the mastermind to be reckoned with. The only exception to this wasn't really evil, and as it turns out wasn't really even a character, but that's a tangent I shan't tangent today. If you can tell this guy's bad news, if just the idea that he knows the man who's housing Faye for the evening sends her dieharding into a shower in a paranoid rage. Actually, the fact that his name is Vicious at all is pretty impressive. It's weird because I know the name means, like in dictionary terms, depraved and reprehensible, which is very true of him. But doesn't it sound like a drag queen's name? I mean, I can just hear, "Hi babe, they call me Vicious." Nobody could pull off that name, I'm sure, but just one look at our Red Planet Corleone here proves me dead wrong.
Beyond anime top 10 lists and what have you though, they also did general anime reviews, which again seemed quite decent for their time. I can't say I agree with all their opinions, but overall I found their stuff fine enough. They also did a Fruits Basket radio drama, which is the most of the time anime fan thing that I can personally think of. And from what I understand, they eventually started identifying as a male, with their new name Jacob, and then sort of disappeared as far as content creation goes, with a final goodbye video all the way back in 2014.
Let's try to get a little more of whatever this is here. Nah, forget it. It's a waste. It's a waste. It was a nice idea, but it's a waste now. If you saw the last video I did, which was literally the last video I did, it was a top 10 Space Dandy episodes. And near the end I said this is my last video, and today I'm going to talk about, I guess, a short bit about the journey I've taken and what I'm moving on to. And yeah, and if you haven't seen that top 10 Space Dandy episodes video, I guess go watch it, because that's the end of my video reviewing legacy for now. And anyway, let's start from the top, I guess. So I started doing this video reviewing thing when I was 18, and I got on Tig when I was 19. And now I'm 24, so it's been a long time. It's been quite a journey. And I'm kind of a different person now than I was when I was 18 years old. I think that would be true of most people if you asked them, you know, in 6 years at a youthful time in your life, how much did you change? People would probably say a lot. And yeah, when I started doing the video thing, it was just for fun. I had no idea I was ever going to be able to make a living at it. And then very quickly, inside of a year or so, I was making a living at it. And this was good because, I don't know how many of you know this, but, you know, it's not a secret, I guess. I was a college dropout at the time. And not really by choice, it was just a matter of I went from having college paid for me by my parents to paying for college on my own, and then after a while I couldn't pay for it anymore. So, and I kind of got depressed and upset and just wasn't handling the situation well, so I dropped out. And the Tig with Tig stuff, that kept me sustained for a good long time while I was working off of that and working side jobs and, you know, interacting with other people across the world through these videos. And it was, you know, it was good and it was nice. But that was a long time ago, and things have changed a lot since then, and it's time to, I guess, move on to greener pastures.
Well, that is before they eventually came back several years later under their new channel, Weebservations. A lot of their new content seems to be reaction content, which it just really isn't my thing, to be honest. But they seem to be happy doing what they're doing these days. Though it has been 4 years since their last video, so I'm assuming that they're taking a break from content creation for the time being and probably just doing IRL stuff. So, fair enough to them. Mars Girl. So Mars Girl was one of those creators I actually watched a fair bit back in the day, and mainly because she did retrospective reviews on Don Bluth films, as well as the various sequels based on Don Bluth films, as well as Ralph Bakshi films, all of which being Western animation retrospectives, which during that time I was not only just into anime, but I was into animation in general, with wanting to watch all the most obscure, strange, experimental, creepy, or even at times messed up animated films that I could find. I was also just a huge fan of Don Bluth's works growing up, since many of them were the films that were my absolute favorites as a kid. However, upon revisit of Mars Girl's content, I must say that while for their time, it was certainly novel having someone go over all of these films, I have to say that much of the commentary here feels rather lacking. As an example, she actually ended up reviewing all of the sequels to all of Don Bluth's films, the vast majority of which he had no involvement with, including An American Tail, Fievel Goes West. And during her review, she says that the animation is very good, but then proceeds to criticize it for having more bouncy and fluid animation. She then says that it's a decent movie, but that it's lacking because there was no moment that made her cry, as if that's like a metric to pass for these films to be good, I guess.
Characters feel slightly less intelligent than before, and there are large pieces of incredibly ludicrous events happening with slightly more rubbered animation to let you know that the events are meant to be comical. Tiger has the majority of scenes with ridiculously rubbery animation, including this one where he's trying to escape an angry pack of dogs while trying to catch the train. It's leads into another really ridiculous and rubbery moment where Tiger gets trained by Wily to be an awesome law-enforcing dog.
Then in her Anastasia review, she proceeds to say that the animation looks rotoscoped, but says that it still looks good in spite of this, and that she normally hates rotoscoped animation because to her it looks uncanny.
For starters, just looking at the animation alone is enough to make your jaw drop. While Don Bluth is amazing at animating animals, I've always adored his incredibly realistic human animations. I've made mention before that most of the human animations are most likely rotoscoped, but at the same time, I've seen some really scary looking rotoscoping in my day, and Bluth's human animations look the most natural and fluid while still looking like a pretty cartoon. It doesn't give me that terrifying uncanny valley feeling where I feel uncomfortable because it appears too real. The unfortunate reality, however, is that there's too terribly many instances where 2D characters are set on top of 3D rendered backgrounds. The two things put together often look really jarring.
And I guess somewhere along the way of me watching all of these old reviews, I guess hearing her complain about animation being too bouncy, or too fluid, or too expressive, or being too realistic, or too stylized, or not the very specific middle ground that she seems to want all animation to be in, with her being very particular about what she wants out of it, I guess I just kinda had a moment where I realized that I just don't care about her opinions on these movies, if I'm gonna be totally honest. Call me an elitist, but when I say I love animation as a medium, that I am a fan of animation, I don't just mean a specific thing, a specific style, or a specific type of movie. I mean I love fluid animation, choppy animation, rotoscoped animation, a bouncy, claymation, 30 frames, 24 frames, 12 frames. I love extremely high budget, all-out masterpieces, as well as little hole-in-the-wall, no-budget, experimental things that are basically held up by shoestrings and a dream. While I don't expect the average person who doesn't care about animation to share my sentiments, nor am I saying it makes you a bad person or a bad critic if you do not share in my full admiration for animation, at the same time, I do feel like if you're gonna engage with these films and animation as your main thing on the website as well as just in general, I would just expect, if nothing else, that you'd be a little bit more open-minded or even knowledgeable with your thoughts on these movies. Maybe I'm just too passionate about the topic to be purely objective, but I just found her reviews overall to be rather shallow. There is more to discuss with her yet again, but we'll talk about it more in depth with, again, the Change the Channel stuff, as well as the Beyond the Change the Channel stuff. But for now, as far as content goes that isn't like nearly 20-year-old animated movie reviews, she doesn't really do a whole lot from what I could see. In fact, if you look at her channel, there's a really weird thing where she basically just completely killed all of her algorithm and channel interest, it seems, by doing a podcast of some kind in which the thumbnail is the exact same boring thing every single video. Other than a 12-hour video about Vic Mignogna. Oh god, I guess we'll have to talk about that at a later time. But who's next? Bennett the Sage. Well, we're here, everybody. The end of the Glup Shido Roundup, and we have arrived at a dude who some have been rather excited for me to cover. Some because they are a fan of him, and some because they absolutely hate him. I think, nonetheless, many people expect me to have a lot to say about him. But if I'm gonna be honest, I feel like his whole channel can be summarized with this image. His show, Anime Abaddon, is like the Nostalgia Critic, a review show where Bennett the Sage reviews anime, in particular anime OVAs, more than anything else. A show where he proceeds to show off some of the coolest, most experimental, and some of the most beautifully animated, stylized, cool, and at times, influential things to come out of anime, as well as a few kind of, less than stellar ones, but still interesting all the same, and then proceeds to just kind of shit all over them, fails to understand the appeal of any of them, and usually engages with them in bad faith, failing to even try and engage with the themes if there are any, and just kind of gives a ton of cool shit a bad name. Now, don't get me wrong, there is some stuff in his reviews that have flaws, some major ones even. Hell, some of the stuff he talks about even is pretty bad. OVAs, as much as I love them, can be pretty fucking weird at times, or just out of pocket with how fucking out of nowhere they can be with a sudden sex scene or something like that. So I can understand from a reviewing perspective why they work so well. But the problem is, no credence is afforded to any of them, with him pretty well giving a bad name to most OVAs back in the day, single-handedly, since no one else was reviewing these things over here, and even less knew anything about them. And so much like the nostalgia critic effect, people had the tendency to just kind of watch the review that he would make, and then proceed to disregard these OVAs and animes as pieces of shit to be mocked. I guess to be fair, maybe they were never gonna watch any of these OVAs to begin with, but still, I guess I just kind of find the whole concept of that to be a little bit sad. And I guess as a fan of some of this stuff, I wish that he was at least funny while doing it. But I never really found him particularly funny either. In fact, sometimes he's just plain weird.
Great. Now the TSA will have the bright idea to confiscate our laptops during the security screening process. Now how am I supposed to watch my nasty pornography mere spitting distance from a complete stranger? And don't you dare suggest that I just buy a nudie mag at the duty-free store like some goddamn psychopath.
The same dream again. What does it mean? What is it? I don't know.
Oh, come on, that's not fair. He's voiced by Steve Bloom. Are you trying to make me gay? Look at this guy. It looks like he was built in a lab run by Abercrombie and Fitch. God, it's taking everything I have to keep my butthole from making a yummy sound. You shut the fuck up!
In spite of this, I still tried to watch several of his reviews, both old and new. And in particular, I found that his later years of content creation, he started to lean away from that style of angry movie reviewer as the tides kind of turned against him, as more and more people were out there singing the praise of these OVAs, or at least engaging with them on a level that wasn't just pure mockery. And I then noticed as he leaned more away from that mockery, in particular with his video on Evangelion, after years of mocking these things, including Evangelion pretty strongly, something about this video in particular, where he is now basically praising its every single movement, felt like a bitter soap was being washed in his mouth every few minutes. It came off as weirdly inauthentic and forced, and whether he just simply changed his mind about this stuff, or he was always just playing a more over-the-top character in his older videos, I guess all the same, it just kind of rang a bit hollow at the end of the day. Now, to give some credit, Bennett has moved on and away from content creation, and into a career into the medical field from what I understand, and plans on making a final video for Anime Abaddon as a last goodbye. So I really don't wish him any ill will in that regard. At the end of the day, it's just opinions about fucking anime, it's no big deal. Even if I particularly didn't find his videos to be all that funny or all that interesting. And they are, if nothing else, an interesting relic of the past. They had the unfortunate side effect of making the discourse around OVAs pretty shitty for a while. Okay, so I think that's enough. We've finally talked about and covered most of these creators to some degree or another, some more than others, and there are still a few that you might be wondering hey, how come you didn't talk about this guy? And trust me, I haven't forgotten. A few of those people might just be talked about in one of the future movie reviews of this channel. Because yes, with this lightning round out of the way, with all the key characters finally described and showcased to you, it's finally time. Because while so many of these creators, big or small, may be lost to time in some sort of way, there are some things, some videos, some art that never dies. Some things that the world simply shall never forget, that live far beyond the creations of any individual in the pursuit of creating something bigger. There are some things that time will not allow to rest, and it's in those rare pieces of art where history is made, where we, creator and observer alike, can join in one in unity and bear witness to something that truly, honestly, fully kicks fucking ass. And that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so very much for watching this video all the way through. I know it was a really long one, but I hope you enjoyed the ride. And also, let me know who your favorite creators from Channel Awesome were. Not just the big popular ones, but amongst these smaller ones that I showcased. Were any of your favorites in there? Did you agree with my opinions on them? Did you disagree? Let me know. And I also hope that you're ready for the upcoming Kick-Assia video epic. It's gonna be big. And a reminder, it'll be on Patreon first for the first few weeks. So if you want to see it early, when it's out, and support my stuff, then do consider jumping over there. But until next time, my friends, this has been Dylan the Night Owl, flying off to Kick-Assia!